All right.
For Oregon, because
Call me.
their coach is Dana
Okay.
Altman. He used to coach at Creighton for years.
Here.
Brecken,
Here.
Moore,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Waters.
Here.
Okay, help me somebody. Where's my cheat sheet here?
Help me, Ron.
The hell?
I probably
Don't-
flipped it over
Not
with
me.
the whole.
Did you edit it to make sure it was all in order?
It is, I like that.
We need a motion to go into closed session of the city council to evaluate the professional competency of an individual. whose
What's he
appointment is being
laughing about?
considered
Competence.
To prevent needless or irreparable injury to that city or that individual's reputation, and that individual requests a closed session, city manager and city attorney evaluation. I'll move it. Go ahead, you moved it.
Yeah.
Brecken,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters, Capron.
Aye.
You just add it up.
Yes, yeah.
I move we return to open session.
Second.
Capron,
Here.
Greckin, Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters.
I move we adjourn
Me too.
to closed session.
Second.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters.
We'll be back in 5 minutes.
Greckin,
Here.
Moore,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Waters. Here. Capron.
Here.
If we stand for a silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll move on to Civil Service Commission, Dr. Cindy Hansen. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
You're on already, right?
I am.
Tell us why you want to continue.
I'd like to continue because I feel I have the skills and knowledge necessary to continue to add value to the committee and be a voice of the citizens with understanding of the processes.
How long have you been on now? Not very long, right?
I've been on 2 years.
Has it been 2 years?
Yes.
Time went a little faster than I thought. Questions? I'm assuming your attendance has been good?
Yes, I think I've missed 3 meetings over the course of the 2 years, but have been there for several other panel requirements.
Okay,
Thank you for serving.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yes?
Okay, we'll go to the Events Facility Advisory Board, Kevin Kelseth. How many openings do we have?
One,
One vacancy,
but
thanks to Alex.
there are 3 up at the end of June.
In June, yes,
there'll
there'll
be-
be 3 more, June 30th.
All right, go ahead, Kevin.
Hello, my name is Kevin Kelseth. I am the creative director at American Popcorn Company here in Sioux City, and I also have a business of my own, Kelseth Design. I have been in marketing my entire career in Sioux City. I think that would be a valuable asset to the EFAB board. I am a past board member and have been past president. You won't find anybody who will take this position more seriously than I. And as far as you just asked attendance to the last person, and I don't think I missed more than 1 or 2 in the roughly 9 years that I served. Something that I wanted to mention when I was up here was I know that there's talk about a hotel there as well as a parking lot. And having served on the board in the past, I know how full the lot can get down there. And just noticed that all the RVs that are there during the home show. And I thought it might be good to bring to the attention of what will those people do, the vendors, if there is not a space for them to park near the convention center. Well, there will be a parking lot there, but I thought it might be a good idea to consider, would that accommodate RVs to park in the lot or some way for them to be there close to the convention center? And that's one of the reasons why I think I'd be a valuable asset on the board, is to, having past experience and see things that might come up in the future and hopefully avoid costs that otherwise you might not think about.
Questions?
What is it you really like about it, Kevin? Because you've done it 9 years and you're coming back for more.
I've helped with Saturday in the Park as gratis stuff, things that I enjoy doing. And I think I can be an asset to the board itself in ideas and creativity on how to work things out. Also, in the past, I was on the committee that helped oversee the Tyson. And had I known then what I know now about things, I might have looked at things a little differently and even asked more questions when I was on that committee. And that's something you gain with experience.
And thanks for all your time, because you have done a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kent Colby.
My name is Kent Colby. I work for Liberty National Bank. I have 2 kids in the Sioux City school system. Excuse me. And I'm interested in applying for this board position. I feel I can bring good service, hopefully some good ideas. In the past, I have served on the Sioux City Parks and Rec Board for about 6 years. And just at that time, the parks in the area interested me, and I feel also that these facilities as well as the tourism board interest me, and I'd like to take a shot at being on this board.
Not to put you on the spot, but talk to me about some of your ideas. Have you been thinking about anything? I mean, generating any ideas, being on Parks and Rec and then going to this? What are your thoughts for events and facilities?
You mean changes or?
Wherever you want to go with it. What do you think?
I don't have anything specific, I guess, for you today. Sorry.
That's fine. I said I was putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
That's why I just let you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Miles Patton Jr.
Good afternoon. I want to thank you for the opportunity for being interviewed today. I appreciate this opportunity. I think there are historic times coming ahead for the EFAB board and the EFAB situation, and because there are historic times, I want you to know I'm really interested this time. Last time I was here, it was kind of wondered. But I'm really interested in being on the board this time. I have qualifications that I think fit the EFAB board real well. I was on the Kill Cat board when we opened the Tyson Event Center. Then I was on the museum board when we opened the museum. And then I served 1 year, this last one term, on the EFAB board and was not replaced. I think that I have several things which are important. I have maturity, which to me is very important. Since I was only on the CAD board, just only been off about a year, I find that I can be up to speed effectively and quickly on the CAT board because I know what's going on or what was going on, and I don't have to learn a new trade, so to speak. I'm dedicated to the interest of Sioux City and their improvements. I have the time to serve. I have no hidden agendas. I am independent and forthright and will take a stand on the situation, as some of you know. Again, I want to thank you again for the opportunity of being here, and I urge you to consider my appointment for this opening.
Question?
Thanks, Miles.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Miles.
Okay?
Thanks, Miles.
Thank you.
Ida Planbeck?
Good afternoon. I was here once before in June to apply for the same board, and I had just a little under 6 months as the general manager at Stony Creek Hotel and Conference Center. So now I have had a great time. I've made great connections with Erica and Brent. We meet together regularly just to kind of talk about what we can do for Sioux City and to bring people into the community. I also have served in the past at a local, state, and national level with the National Guard, and I feel that that time allows me to understand more about events and things, great things going on in Sioux City, and I would really look forward to serving on this board.
Questions?
Thanks for applying again.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the Senior Advisory Committee. Ann Broderson?
There you go.
Your baby.
Should be the Mayor Pro Tem Senior Advisory Committee.
Yes.
You know, I feel really happy to be here, but on the other hand, you know, I used to work for Kevin's father. Now, does that put me on the Senior Advisory Board or not? My name is Ann Broderson. I've lived in Sioux City most of my life, except for a short period in Omaha. I have 25 years with the state of Iowa, both with the Department of Human Services, the Iowa Courts, and Western Iowa Tech. I've worked for Boys and Girls Home. I'm a licensed master social worker. And I just wanted to say that seniors have helped to build this city. And they've paid taxes here, they've worked here, they've raised their children here. And I think it's important to try and incorporate this 13% of the population as we try to build a future for the millennials, because I've heard a lot of talk, you know, from the council about the millennials. Many think of retirement in terms of vacation, travel, and doing things with grandchildren, and that isn't necessarily so. I did have one part-time job where I worked at the Martin Apartment Hotel, you know, Martin Apartments. And, you know, there are some things that you do find out about seniors. Feelings of retirees are feeling invisible, loneliness, gradual decline in physical energy and in health, gradual decline in their mental agility, loss of ability to drive their car, possible loss of spouse or close friends, and financial worries. I mean, no raises in Social Security, and you still have to pay the taxes. You have to do all kinds of things. So there are many programs available for low income, but there aren't necessarily a lot of programs available for middle income people, especially when they're retired. And I had some possible ideas for this committee to consider. Oh, and by the way, I have had my own consulting business for the past 25 years. And I've written lots of strategic plans, brought millions of dollars into the community in grants. And so I'm familiar with a lot of different things that we might be able to do. We might be able to encompass the seniors in the city strategic planning and comprehensive plan at a little higher level. Look to seniors to fill part-time jobs to supplement their income and for socialization. Not everyone wants to volunteer. Take a closer look at the University of Iowa's report on neighborhood disinvestment in terms of middle-income seniors not being able to repair their homes due to a lack of money or ability. Explore the possibility of securing a senior discount when negotiating the city franchise with Cable One. Making events more affordable for seniors and expanding the Center for Active Generations activities to neighborhoods and not just in their one facility on the west side. So these are just some of the thoughts that I had off the top of my head. Do you have any questions for me?
I can't tell you how pleased I am that what you've outlined this afternoon. I think it's terrific.
Thank you.
And I think you've got the energy and the knowledge and you get it. I like that. I mean,
Nice.
you
And
really
I do
get it.
have the time.
So,
Pretty obvious you're younger than me, though, because as small as this print is, I can't read hardly anything you did.
I put an
So you're a
extra
lot-
page on there
you're a
just
lot
for
younger,
you,
your eyes
Mr.
are a lot
Scott.
better.
I put an extra page on there just for you so you could read it, my activity.
I got it on the back.
All right.
Good job. Any questions?
Great job.
Yeah, I do want to add something. Before we go any further, I want to thank Dan Moore for getting this committee together, because I think we really need it in the city. I'm in home health care, so I understand some of the problems that some of these elderly people have, and to have a committee that maybe we can direct questions to and come up with different ideas, I think is a great idea. So thank you, Dan, for doing this.
You're welcome,
And
Rhonda.
I want to
Thank
encourage
you.
people out there, you don't have to be a senior citizen to be on this committee. Sometimes it's nice to hear from younger people that they have moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas. Maybe they can give us some input on how they handle their folks or their grandparents, and maybe some problems that they have. So how many people are on this committee? Are we looking for?
Seven.
Seven? Okay.
It's
So,
newly formed, and I think you'll do a really good job.
Thank you, Dan. And Alex, you might notice that I was the one that was the founder of Three Rivers.
I have quite as many credentials. I've lived in Sioux City most all my life. I've been business owner with my father and my brother, Sterling Spring Service, which was in business for 45 years. I've been involved in a lot of volunteer services throughout the community as a scout leader in various locations and various levels for quite a few years. I am currently on the board of directors for the Siouxland Community Credit Union, and I've been serving there for a year. I have always been interested in governmental affairs. When I was in business at Sterling Springs, I was on the Governmental Affairs Committee with the Chamber of Commerce, enjoyed that tremendously. I never had the time to volunteer for this type of a committee before because of business commitments and so on. But I am now retired. I have the time. I'm still interested in governmental activities. I think I can be of service. I'm not at all familiar with what kind of situations will come before this committee, so I'm not prepared to tell you what I can do, because until I find out what you want, I don't know what I can do. But I know I can do something. I know I can be of service. I know I can have ideas and work on situations that come up. And I thought it was an opportunity. This is one board that I felt I was qualified for, so I thought I'd give it a shot.
Thank you for
Thank you.
doing so.
Thank you.
bet.
One thing I noticed, Jim, is that you and I don't have the same amount of hair we had when we played ball down the Ruger Field years ago.
No, that's
50
true.
years is things have changed.
It has a way of getting away.
Thank you for applying. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Neil Peck.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, distinguished members of the City Council. My name's Neil Peck. I've lived in Sioux City, Iowa for 50-plus years, and I have worked and owned my own business for those 50-plus years, and at the end of a career of 50 years in the secular world, I decided to take a new step, and that new step was to go into lay ministry, which I've been in for 20-plus years, and I now serve as Director of Older Adult Ministries at First United Methodist Church in Sioux City, Iowa. It's a part-time position. The interview, I was hired because of the color of my hair and lack of my hair, Mr. Mayor.
Got a lot more than I do, my friend.
I also serve on the PACE Advisory Board and serve as chaplain for Abu Bakr Shrine Temple. And one of the reasons that I put in my name for this Senior Advisory Committee is that Sioux City has been very, very good to me over the course of the years. And I am a believer in giving back. And it is now a time in my life, and I think I can be a plus on this committee with several different ideas for some of the expertise that I have. I would entertain any questions that you may have.
Ideas.
Ideas. One of the things is the Senior Advisory Committee. And the minute you hear the word senior, you think of obviously older and sometimes negative.
The mayor always looks down at this end
Yeah, I
and looks
know.
at me when he...
And Pete, you're younger than I am. But I want this committee to be a committee that projects positive things for the city and for the community, and to be able to do positive things. Not a place to come and complain about your taxes or anything of that nature, to be positive. And that comes from the leadership of that committee, so.
Neil, I think you do a terrific job too, along with Ann and Jim. I think we're off to a good start. I mean, this is a newly formed committee, and it's going to be extremely important that we have dedicated members of that committee. And you're well-rounded. You've got the experience. I've 4 other members on the committee, so you'll be up and running and meet with the city staff and really give it some direction as to where you want to go. But I'm excited about the 3 of you that have applied. I think things are really positive. This community has always had its success because of volunteers, such as yourselves, and it's just remarkable, and it's very satisfying to know that this community has volunteers that really care about what's going on in Sioux City. We might not always agree. In fact, I was very careful to say to the committee, you know, you might come up with great ideas. You might even come up with some recommendations. You might run into some resistance, but that's what makes the world go around. I think it makes a better place for all of us to live. I think you'd be a terrific addition, as well as Jim and Ann. That's how I feel about it. So I think we'd be off to a great start.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks very much.
Well, we're going to move on to the agenda, which is items 3 through 15E is the consent agenda. You can consider that any of these items pass unanimously unless a separate roll call vote's asked for by a council member. If you want to speak on an item not on the agenda, you can do that under citizen concerns. You need to keep in mind that we do implement the 3-minute rule, and we'd ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. And please state your name and address when you come forward so it can be recorded. I move the consent agenda.
Second.
3 is a reading of the City Council minutes of March 20th, 2017. 4 is a resolution authorizing final payment to the Sioux City School District for the Clark Elementary School pedestrian bridge and storm sewer replacement project.
Mayor, I have a conflict of interest, and I need to abstain.
5 is a resolution approving advances of funds for repayment from the Urban Renewal Tax Increment Revenue Funds. 6, a resolution declaring intent to issue debt to reimburse the city for expenditures paid in connection with specified projects. 7 is a resolution temporarily closing various sections of Water and Pearl on June 10th and 30th, July 22nd, 28th, August 26th, and September 1st for the Hard Rock Casino's Battery Park Concert Series.
Mayor, I have a conflict of interest on that item. Need to abstain.
8 is a resolution supporting the submission of an IEDA application for the Workforce Housing Tax Credit for Hans Property Management, Harrison Street. 9 is a resolution supporting the submission of an IEDA application for Workforce Housing Tax Credit for Hans Property Management, Henry, South Lakeport, and Hanford Streets. 10 is a resolution supporting the submission of an IEDA application for the Workforce Housing Tax Credit for Hans Property Management, 34th Street. 11 is a resolution adopting construction documents for the project of the Outer Drive North and Floyd Boulevard Trail Connection Project. 12 are actions relating to agreements and contracts. A is a resolution approving extension agreement number 1 with CAP Recycling for 1 year for the purchase of clean asphalt millings and crushed clean concrete. B is a resolution approving contract amendment number 2 to the Targeted Jobs Withholding Tax Credit Program withholding agreement with IEDA Hirschbach Motor Lines and GR Equipment Leasing. C is a resolution approving a contract to NEBCON for the 2017 fiber optics project.
I had a question about that. Is Glenn, I wondered about the engineer's estimate and why that came so high over. Anyone be able to speak on that?
Glenn Sedeby Communication Center. What was your question?
I just wanted to know, I mean, I understand we're talking about a $28,000 project, but it came in 42% over what our estimate was.
It actually, that was the engineering estimate.
Or yeah.
Okay. But the estimate that I had in the CIP was $60-some thousand.
Oh, okay.
But we purchased all the material up front, so instead of contracting the materials, all we did was contract the labor.
Okay.
Still about 80,000. Isn't it? Isn't that the material we bought last week?
No.
No. That's your story and you're sticking to it today?
Well, there was a portion of that material that was also for the Morningside project.
Okay.
So.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
D is a resolution approving a consulting services agreement with DGR for design. F is a resolution approving a development agreement with Clayton Creek for the rural residential development located at 701 Roswell Street and 801 Roswell Street. G is a resolution. Oh, sorry.
Jeff Hansen, Community Development Operations Manager. I just want to quickly introduce this item. For the last year, we've been working with Jay Lehman and several of his partners on a development on South Roswell Street. This involves a 11-lot subdivision out in a rural setting of Sioux City, just on the west side of the current city limits line out Stone Avenue. As you note in there, the city is proposing to assist with the development with our residential infill development funds in the amount of $77,000, which would support the 11-unit subdivision. The developer is in the audience and would like to introduce himself and also make an introduction on the project.
Jay Lehman, 6701 Kingswood Court, Sioux City. As Jeff had mentioned, we've been working on this project for about a year, and we request that the council consider, instead of the $7,000 a lot that's been allotted, we're requesting $8,500. The reason for our request is the current South Roswell Street is in need of some significant improvement to get to the point where we would actually start the development in terms of adding the new street or extending the street for where we would be proposing putting in those lots. So our request really comes from the city to help improve our current street that we have as a city, to bring it up to grade so that we can continue that on and then add the development. The street is currently sloped the wrong way. It has a major drainage issue just because of how it's graded. So we're gonna have to do some regrading on it. I've got a few pictures if you guys want to see them as to what exactly it looks like when you're there, and how and where we would be improving it, and would be asking for some additional funds to do that.
And just to highlight on the map in front of you what Jay is referring to orient you, this is the water tower out on Stone Avenue. As you're heading east on Stone Avenue and go north, South Roswell Street is an existing gravel street which lies within a 30-foot right-of-way. The city limits line is this pinkish color line. The property that Mr. Lehman owns is this piece and this piece, which consists of approximately 32 acres. Normally, when we're doing a development agreement, the developer is responsible from a new road In this case, the new road would come off of where Roswell terminates today and continues through the proposed development. In this case, the developer is proposing to improve the existing city-owned street because of the drainage issues. As Mr. Lehman stated, there's water issues during major rain events. You get a lot of washouts. The street is tilted the wrong way, and so the water drains to the north, which creates an issue. But also the street needs to be elevated and also widened for additional traffic, for head-to-head traffic. And so Jay is working with the engineer to design that work and will be responsible to do that work.
How many acres per residence?
There'll be 11 units out here. This is the proposed layout that's included in the agreement and in your homework. Lot 1 starts here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then the 11th one here, which is the smaller of the 11, is exactly 1 acre.
Okay, so the first one is 11 acres? Is that how you're
No.
looking at it?
No. This one here is the largest site here. This is lot 1, and it has frontage here. So if you look at this map, right now South Roswell comes down here and terminates right about here, and it provided access just to one house.
Okay.
So now Mr. Lehman is proposing to extend South Roswell, which would be a public street up to this cul-de-sac. So therefore, all lots would have access on a public right-of-way. And also, we're requiring an 8-inch public water main to come from Stone Avenue all the way through the development with hydrants. Here you can see where the driveway had provided access to the property in the past. We do have right-of-way. It's shown in the agreement. There's right-of-way that exists right here and here on the north and east side of the property, and we're proposing to vacate those and transfer that to Jay. In exchange, he will dedicate and provide us the right-of-way needed for the new extension of South Roswell, which goes through this area.
No, it goes all the way up to the green line almost starts, Jeff.
It comes up here and it turns, and then this lot, I believe it's lot 10, has their access coming straight up.
So it's going to be gravel, and there's only going to be one access?
There's only one access today serving the site, and yes, the gravel street will be extended with a gravel street.
So Roswell's not even going to be paved now, right?
No. And actually, to pave South Roswell, you would have to acquire additional right-of-way. Right now, it only lies within 30 foot of right-of-way. It'd be difficult to try to improve that into a paved city street with only 30 feet of right-of-way.
So not any of it's going to be paved, or at least the first 30 feet or anything?
He'll be required to have a paved apron out here on South Roswell in Stone Avenue, a paved apron to help with tracking of gravel out on the Stone Avenue. But there will be a requirement for that to be paved.
So down the road, it won't be paved, it's always going to be gravel?
Yep, it'll be improved.
It's going to be improved, it's going to be widened, and our intentions are to have milled asphalt to try to keep the dust down. I and my family are building one of the homes out there. So my wife couldn't be here today, but trust me, there won't be anything we can do not to have dust, we will do.
And who's pushing the snow?
As part of the development agreement, there will be a homeowner association, and the developer has to sign a limited services agreement. And so it'd be very low priority for any snow removal. So I think talking with the developer, more than likely all that winter maintenance work would be done by the homeowner association, just to the fact that they'll need to get out of that area sooner than what the priority would be for city snow removal.
And who's going to keep up the gravel?
What we do on the gravel streets right now is the city, in this case, maintains up to the end of South Roswell today, but the property owners and the homeowner association, in this case, would help with the cost of providing any additional gravel if needed, and then we would maintain it.
And so, Jeff, do you recommend, or you feel that the 7,000 per unit is fair for the improvements that he wants, or is
Staff recommended the 7,000 per unit because it's consistent with past development agreements. This is a little unique, though, in the case that the developer is making improvements to a street that's outside of his development. Yes, it's providing his sole access, but it is an additional cost that he would normally not have. And so therefore, Mr. Lehman is proposing that additional per lot with the use of those funds.
Anyone who would like to go more than 7,000?
I would state that the agreement is currently at 7,000, so if there was direction from council to increase that amount, we would request that we defer it and bring it back in a clean version with the new amount. And that amount is listed under the alternatives in the RCA.
I think under the circumstances, it would make sense. Go the additional amount. South Roswell Street the way it is. And I've driven it a few times. It's really narrow.
So you're saying go
It's a lot of
85?
work.
Yeah, I tend to agree. How long is that water main going to be? How far will that stretch out?
It's going to be a little over 2,000 feet.
2,000 feet? Yeah, and
That's the additional expense. So
Yeah.
normally you would have the water main already up to the subdivision. In this case, there's no water main serving South Roswell or anybody off of South Roswell. So the connection needs to be made on the main up on Stone Avenue and then put into the new South Roswell Street. And then before it even gets to his development, he has some significant expense with that water main.
And remind me, what's the timeline of the development? What are you looking at?
As soon as you guys give me the green light. Actually, there's already four lots that have been acquired verbally and,
Also keep in mind, this is the first step. This subdivision would require a preliminary plating process as identified in the agreement, so it would still have to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission and then ultimately City Council for approval. It does require rezoning as well. It's currently zoned ag. Ag requires 20-acre minimum, so we do need to do a rezoning. And then also when the improvements are all installed, we'll have to come back for final plat approval by City Council.
well, if there is interest among council to increase, I would make a motion, but because we'll need a motion to defer this item until and then you'll bring back a new version.
We can do that.
Sure, there are a couple of different options.
Okay.
You could delete it entirely from the agenda and just provide direction to staff to bring it back with the increased amount for next week, or you can defer it if you would
Okay.
like to do that.
How much time will you need?
The agreement's already in place, so it's just a matter of updating the financial amounts. I could have it back in a week if directed.
Well, we could defer it till next week then. Would that work?
Is that the best way?
Either way is fine.
Either way.
Procedurally, whatever you would like to do is fine.
Well, if you can get it done, I'd make a motion to defer this item, action item 12F to next Monday, April 3rd.
I'll second that.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
I'm going to vote no, and I'll tell you why. We're going to have everybody hounding us, and I'm not taking a shot at you. Don't take it that way, Jay. But everybody's going to be back, and I don't know why we have a $7,000 limit. Because we're going to have this happen time and time again. We already experienced it out on the Heiser Road deal. So let's don't have a limit anymore because we never adhere to it anyway. And I think I've driven this. I think he's got a great project, but we're doing an awful lot of things to allow this to happen out here that we wouldn't not necessarily do. And so I think it's a great project, but I think the 7,000 is well within the realm of reasonability. So no.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
G is resolution fixing a date for a meeting of the authorization of a loan and disbursement agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $470,000 worth of sewer revenue capital loan notes. Motion is requested to amend the dollar amount to $475,000. I'll move the amendment.
Second.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters. Aye. Capron,
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
H is resolution approving a contract with MLS Landscape for the construction of the Sertoma Park Trail Loop project. I is a resolution approving a contract to TR Harris Construction for Quail Court, Deer Haven Drive, and Maplewood Street Repair Project. J is a resolution approving a contract with ESA for asbestos abatement in the southeast balcony of the Long Lines Family Recreation Center. And I should have asked this question, but how in the world did we do all of the work we did on the Long Lines when we redid that project, and we just now discovered $120-some thousand worth of asbestos? Who was the engineer that you attorneys out there will all tell me is the statutes run on now that missed that? Should have asked the question earlier. I guess I'll move on. This is unbelievable to me that we would miss that.
Matt, you don't know on that? You could find out for us?
I mean, this made your project really expensive.
Matt Salvatore, Parks and Recreation Director. Just re-clarify what exactly.
How much is this contract? I think I read it.
5,000.
Huh?
125.
Redid that whole building within the last 10 years.
2004.
What?
2004.
Okay, but asbestos was alive and well in 2004.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah.
But it wasn't addressed at that time, and I think
You
that's.
couldn't do that work unless it was addressed.
Defer it a week and we can find out.
Yeah.
I'll move to defer a week, to April 3rd.
This is unbelievable to me that nobody's asked the architect or the engineers or whoever.
Why I wasn't caught.
Well, will it make a difference in deferring, even if we find out who did it in '04? It's got to be done now.
Well, it might. I mean, if substantial work was done and it wasn't addressed then, there might be a problem. Might be.
Okay.
I can't imagine how they didn't know that. I mean, they tore that whole balcony to pieces. It used to be chairs all the way up to the top.
Still there.
Well, where is it? Where is it? We're talking about the southeast?
Yes.
The southeast balcony area.
Well, back in the old days, there was a balcony way up top. Nice thing about it, there were pillars everywhere. You couldn't see anything on the floor, but am I right?
The area's been enclosed.
You are right. When the reconstruction was done, they built walls around that balcony. There are still seats, unless they've been removed.
No,
there are
Right.
still seats hidden behind those walls.
So what are we doing up there that we have to do this?
It's not a public.
It's not
accessible
public
area, but
access,
there are-
it's encapsulated by your wall.
Right, there are air handlers up there, so there would need to be.
Okay, well then all the more
Access.
reason they should have caught it if that's the case.
Right.
I tell you, if you were in private business, you'd say,
You owe us.
go ahead, tell me the statute of limitations run so I can move on. You go ahead and tell me that.
Bill Julius with the Tyson Event Center, formerly with the auditorium. Just a little bit of history. When we remodeled the auditorium and took the plaster ceiling and the asbestos curtain out of the building, about 1980, all of the ceiling that was removed, where you have the ventwood ceiling now in the air,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
was asbestos ridden. The flanking portions of the ceiling, either side of that ventwood, still contain asbestos. They were encapsulated. The rule of the day, the law of the land at that point was you could do that. No problem, no foul. The ceiling also in the balcony area, which is what you were just talking about, was also filled with asbestos and encapsulated. So, relative to the current question, which I'm assuming is the installation or retrofit for HVAC equipment, if that area, any of those areas have to be disturbed, you're going to be dealing with asbestos.
But what are we doing up in that area? Because
That I don't know.
Because if it's encapsulated, what are we doing up there that triggered this?
Yeah, that I don't know. I
It's
think there's some-
encapsulated. It's good until you actually go do something.
From the work that we've done with ESA, it's been determined that it's not encapsulated.
On the top side, maybe?
Correct.
Yeah,
Well, I like Mike a lot, but
yeah.
did
There
we,
was core samples done to determine that.
by who?
ESA.
I would assume in Matt's situation, no one would have known to look at it, what was going on with asbestos.
Listen, if they were up there, even in 2004, putting air handlers up there, they would have had to do that asbestos at that point if they did their job right. That's a given.
You would think so, but that's all I can add to the history on it.
Do we have a motion to defer for a week?
We have a motion, but no second.
Second.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye. Parking ramp lighting renovation project. I need to abstain. 13 are actions relating to property. A is a resolution inviting proposals for the sale of land in the Jones Street urban renewal area and accepting the proposal of Jorge A. Cruz, Angeles, and Lila Cruz, 861 15th Street. B is a resolution inviting proposal of sale of land in the Jones Street Alves and Clea Tidy Alvarez, a vacant lot at 861 15th Street. C is a resolution proposing to sell the north half of the vacated east-west alley abutting 510 West 20th Street. Petitioner's Electronic Engineering. D is a resolution proposing to sell the south half of the vacated east-west alley abutting 507 West 19th Street. Petitioner Macon. 14 are purchasing a resolution awarding a purchase order to Caris for the purchase of one load sodium permanganate for the Southbridge Regional Water Treatment Plant. B is a resolution awarding a purchase order to Ready Mix for the purchase of concrete products for the Public Works and Utilities Department. C is a resolution awarding a purchase order to iSavvy for the purchase of 26 uninterruptible power supplies for city and county locations.
I had a question.
Yeah, that's what these are backup power supplies, right? Okay.
And I guess my question about it, or what I wanted to talk was, for me, just looking at what the recommendation was of which company we should go to, was that based on the dollar amount, the value?
Correct, Doug Bach, WCICC, yes, it's strictly on dollar.
Correct. And the reason that I wanted to bring that up is because it seems that Sterling Computers, which is more just right across the river, was $150 more. The contract, is that true? I mean, give or take, right?
Right.
About
Right.
150 bucks. So I guess for me, on a contract where we're talking over $25,000, I'd like to give a little bit more leeway to, well, they're our neighbors. I'd rather pay them $25K to do that than a company out of Illinois over by Chicago. You know what I mean? If we're talking $150 on a $25,000 project.
Believe we can do that? Purchasing's here?
It's below the percent. I'm sure we could. Correct?
That was just my feeling in reading through it, was I would rather go with a local company that I know they spend their tax dollars here as well. I'm friends with people in the company, so.
We have that leeway to go to the second bid?
They can't
Lewis,
make that
purchasing manager. I didn't hear the question, sorry.
It doesn't matter, just so Alex understands, the staff has to recommend the low bidder.
Okay.
And then you can, if it's under a certain percentage, you can make the motion to accept it. They're doing the right thing and recommending.
Yeah, okay, and I understand that. I didn't know if that's only what was taken into consideration, I guess.
That's all they can take into consideration.
Okay, well, and then what's the percentage? I guess I don't even know right now,
2%,
but.
2%
2%.
or under is generally what's looked at for a local preference. In the past, the council hasn't defined whether that extends across the river or not, but it's in the general area.
What percent are we?
Super low.
Like, not even,
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
7/10,
$250 should be 1%, wouldn't it? So
7/10.
it'd have to be less, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I guess I would like to make that motion to amend the contract and award it to Sterling Computers rather than IT Savvy out of Addison.
I'll second that.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
I guess aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Thank you.
D is a resolution awarding a purchase order to Northern Truck Equipment for the purchase of 9 Monroe material spreaders. E is a resolution awarding a purchase order to Nell Fisk for the purchase of 2017 Advanced Rider Scrubber. 15, to receipt of minutes to see the list, come forward if you have any recommendations. Anyone to be heard on any of those items?
Did we address your item, Helen?
Not yet.
What's coming up?
It's coming up. Joe.
Well, not yet. We're still on the consent.
Who are you? No, the gentleman was.
No, but
Did you want to speak on anything on the consent agenda?
On the planning and zoning?
No, it's coming.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be coming. Call the roll, please.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
16 is a hearing and ordinance vacating a portion of Lorraine Avenue between South Coral Street and South Glass Street. Petitioner Joel and Donna Weingan, Planning and Zoning recommends approval. I'll move first reading.
Second.
This item was approved unanimously by Planning and Zoning. This is a proposed vacation of a portion of a tremendously overgrown east-west block of Lorraine Avenue over in service about a year or so ago. The petitioner, who looks like he's in the audience, he had apparently been trying to purchase this property through a vacation process since at least the 1970s. There are a number of other blocks in this area that are like that.
Bought it back in 1960. It hasn't served any purpose. We should have given it
But
to
a
him.
couple of years ago, they,
I know.
metal
Right.
barricades were put
Yeah, I know.
across this.
You want to be heard?
And by the way, my name is Susan Stewart, Suzan Stewart, and I am Chair of Planning and Zoning. My address is 29 West 45th Street, Sioux City, Iowa, 51104.
Go ahead, sir.
Joel Wiegand, Wiegand, live at 2842 South Coral, Sioux City. My wife and I are the petitioners. Even though the street has been barricaded off, we still get traffic through it, four-wheelers, sometimes cars. There's times we've seen vehicles after rains, sideways, upside down, stuff like that on it. Shows we've tried to vacate it back in 1937 years ago, let's say. And so we thought we'd give it a try now. I talked to landowners on all sides. They're interested in purchasing the land. So we're gonna go through this procedure and see how it is. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Anybody opposed to waiving the statutory rule?
No.
I'll move it.
Second.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
I'll move second and third.
Second.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye. It's been vacated, sir. You can make an offer on it now. 17 is a hearing for the HUD's Sioux City Consortium Year 3 Action Plan. I'll move it.
Second.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
18 is a hearing resolution approving plans and spec for the construction of the Pearl Street Park. I'll move it.
Second.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Was another one of your good ideas to acquire that land, Bob. Good job.
Thank you.
19 is a hearing and resolution approving plans and specs for construction of the North Lewis Boulevard water main, 1st Street to 31st Street, Phase 3. I'll move it.
Second.
Greckin,
Aye.
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
20 is a resolution consenting to an agreement with Jetson Aviation and Hawthorne Global Aviation and a memorandum of lease with Hawthorne Global Aviation for property at the Sioux Gateway Airport. I'll move it.
Second.
Anyone to be heard on this? Call the roll, please.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
21 is a resolution awarding a service provider agreement to Thompson Electric for the citywide arc light study. Staff request deletion of this item. I'll move it.
Second.
I just had a question about it, why the bids were so vastly different. I mean,
Spiro Lewis, purchasing manager. We're currently working with both vendors on their bids.
Working on scope and stuff like that, it sounded like. Or
There's some,
kind
yeah,
of-
there's some issues that we just need to look at and talk to both vendors about. We plan to come forward with that hopefully next week or the week after.
You have what?
We plan to come forward to council hopefully next week or the week after.
Where you probably, bids are only good for 30 days, right?
A bond was not required on the bid, either bid.
Still a bit, I'm not gonna argue that. You guys have a different set of rules than the rest of the world, but a bid is good for 30 days, even I think in your agreement.
The code says that if there's a bid bond that's put up for the project, that you have to return the unsuccessful bid bonds or cashier's checks.
So
within 30
why
days.
wouldn't we have required that on this type of contract? It's a service contract. Why would we have not required a bid bond? Are we not gonna require a bond?
It actually is a study, and we worked with legal on this, and basically what they said, it's not considered a capital improvement, so that's why the bond was not required.
Wait a minute. Okay. A new one. Call the roll, please.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
I would like a memo on what the difference a CIP project has no difference if it's a contract. But I don't need it today. 22 is a resolution approving amendment number 1 to the development agreement with GKD regarding property in the northwest corner of Floyd Boulevard and the Outer Drive. Motion is requested to amend northwest to northeast. I'll move that.
Second.
I know what you're gonna tell me, it's a service agreement, but
No.
call the roll, please.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Now, that's on the amendment, correct? No.
I'll move the regular.
Second.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye. 23 is resolution adopting plans and specs for the Pierce Street reconstruction project. I'll move that.
Second.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
24 is a resolution approving a development services agreement with Unity Point Health, St. Luke's Hospital in connection with Pierce Street reconstruction. I'll move it.
Second.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
26 is a hearing and the resolution accepting the proposals of Tritz Pallet and Monterey Management for the sale of the land in the Donner Park Urban Renewal Area, 2201 and 2301 Boulevard of Champions deferred. I'm sorry, I went one ahead. 25 is a resolution approving change order number 1 to the contract with Albanesius regarding the Missouri River Boat Club and bank repair project.
Gonna delete that.
Yeah, we need a motion to delete.
Yes. I'll make a motion to delete.
Second.
I'm not gonna say I told you so on this project.
Thank you. I wasn't here though.
It's okay, Alex.
Call the roll, please.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
No.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Oh, Bob. Aye.
You guys got us into this, and I told you we were gonna get into this.
We're not out of it
Don't
yet.
lump me into this.
But Alex is still doing a good job.
Blame me.
We're not done with it yet, Bob.
Continue to call the roll, please.
Capron,
Yeah, aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
26 is a hearing resolution accepting the proposal of Tris Palace and Monterey Management for the sale of land in the Donner Park Urban Renewal Area, 2201 and 2301 Boulevard of Champions, deferred from March 13, 2017. Go ahead, gentlemen, I'll move it.
Second. Brilliant. It was brilliant.
Mayor and Council, Chris Myers, Economic Development
Yeah,
Specialist. As you're aware, this is the second step in our three-step process to develop the land that the city recently purchased, as well as the land to the west of it in Bridgeport West, which is home to the spec building, which was joint developed with H&R Construction. We put this out for proposals back in February, and over the last 30 days, we did receive 2 proposals from Monterey Management, which is Doug Skinner and his partners, who Doug is here, and also from Frank Tritz of Tritz Pallet, and Frank is here as well. You see the proposals there. Tritz Pallet's proposal includes the purchase of the spec building itself, as well as the land to the north. And Monterey Management is purchasing the land that we recently purchased from Bob Lassard. So we were pleased with the proposals that we received because they seem to line up fairly closely with each other as far as the land that they need. We were very pleased with the economic impact of both of the proposals. The prices that were proposed in the proposals were very close to what we were looking for. So we think it's an all-around good situation. Just a little bit about the projects themselves. Both of the projects are a field pork plant, and so it's a good location for both of them. I don't know if you have anything to add, Marty. Okay. So I guess at this point, this would be the point, if council would approve this resolution, our next step would be to come back on May 8th with the third step, which would basically be a development agreement in hand with both projects to allow us to move forward to a closing.
Well, Doug, I'm finally glad you got something going in Sioux City. We've
Finally got it.
met about 10 times in the last 5 years. Congratulations.
I appreciate all the support.
We're glad you got the deal done. Call the roll, please.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Gretchen,
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Presentation of the Military Road and Reconstruction and Bridge Rehabilitation Project Overview. I think I'm gonna take a little break on that.
Okay. Why don't we just take a break?
You're in charge. Remember, though, I'm not gonna close on that. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Still find time for later. Thanks.
Okay, I'm in charge now.
Is he gone for good?
Oh, he's coming back.
I guess if you want to pull up the PDF in the background, you can do that one. Yeah, and then the PowerPoint is a different. Yes. Should be that one.
No. How are you? What's new?
Brittany Anderson, Senior Civil Engineer. Tonight we wanted to present to council an overview on the Military Road Project. It's a collaboration between 2 projects we had in our CIP, one being the rehabilitation of the military bridge over the Big Sioux River going into North Sioux, and the second being the full reconstruction from the bridge to Riverside Boulevard, including the Riverside Boulevard intersection. Earlier this fall, we went through a consultant selection process and brought JEO Consulting Group on board to do a design package of both projects under one package. Since that time, they've done survey, a traffic study, and we have done some concept designs of the corridor. We've also had 2 public meetings, one in January in Sioux City and one earlier in March in North Sioux City. And we've also done door-to-door visits with everyone along Military Road adjacent to the project to talk about site-specific conditions. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to John with JEO, and he's going to go through some project-specific details and some additional alternatives for the council to consider.
All right, so as Brittany mentioned, my name is John Marburger. I'm with JEO Consulting Group. We've been working on this project, as Brittany noted. So just try to burn through some details. And I know there are several kind of major issues to be decided on the project, and just wanted to get your buy-in and input tonight as we go through. So in terms of the overall view on the screen here is the project corridor that Brittany mentioned, basically from River Drive in North Sioux City to Riverside Boulevard in Sioux City, including the bridge over the Big Sioux River. As far as schedule is concerned, of course, tonight's March. We do anticipate having another public open house sometime in April to just kind of update everybody of what the final preferred concept is, with a project letting anticipated for November of this year. So that's assuming that basically their concept as dictated today is sort of moved forward with, so we can hit our preliminary design in May and then start buying any right-of-way that we need to acquire prior to that November letting. So anything that changes the concept dramatically past basically this point, you're looking at some type of a delay to the overall project. So just kind of put that out in folks' minds so they're aware. As far as the project background, why are we even doing it? There are narrow sidewalks both on the roadway and the bridge. There are complex intersections like Boys, Edgewater, and Military Road, as well as the Military and Riverside Paquette intersection, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that one. The pavement is in fairly poor condition. The bridge deck itself, I'll talk a little bit more about the bridge later on, but the bridge deck is in very poor condition today, which gives you a little bit more capacity on the military side, and then I think that'll transition fairly reasonably into the 4-lane that North Sioux City has north of River Drive. Also included in the project, we are doing complete replacement of city water and sanitary sewer. There's about $100,000 in the budget for some landscape improvements, and so we'll be identifying those once we kind of have an understanding of what this final concept looks like, looking within that concept to see what types of beautification or aesthetic treatments that we can propose. We are moving forward with more of a standard lighting, so we're not proposing anything super fancy. It's just basically the standard. And then, of course, there's some coordination
Define
with...
that standard for me.
What's that?
Define that, what that standard is.
Basically, your standard Mid-American light pole. So like a galvanized...
Steel ones?
What's that?
Colored or just plain aluminum?
Galvanized steel, probably. Yeah, the gray. There's nothing at this stage for a decorative light included in the
Well, I know it's Riverside, so we wouldn't necessarily look at anything unique out there, but that it costs a few dollars more to go with a decorative purple light pole that looks a lot better than aluminum.
Yeah, and from a design perspective, like what we did on West 7th Street, we were able to utilize a fairly standard pole, but paint it black and provide a little bit of a decorative base.
So are we painting it black or are we leaving them silver?
It's
a big deal to me. I wanted every neighborhood to have that same look. We should treat all neighborhoods the same for me.
Isn't Mid-American going to a standard black pole anyways?
Mid-American will not do anything besides their standard galvanized. So if you do a black pole, the city will have to install and maintain those lights.
How many are we going to need?
We haven't gotten that far into the design at this stage in the game, just the concept report. But I guess if you want to include more of a decorative, we'll have to review that with the project estimate.
I have to agree with Bob.
I think there should be continuity.
Yeah, I do too.
So, yeah, we can certainly look at that. That's for sure. That was just kind of what the original scope was to us, so that just letting you know, I guess, but we can definitely look at the more decorative option. And then, of course, coordination with future trails. So there is, we met with Parks and Rec and talked about, potential options to take some trail-sized sidewalk through the corridor, as well as at River Drive and Sioux City, providing for a crossing of a trail. And then there's a future trail planned, I'll call it north of Military Road at that intersection. So there may be some pedestrian warning lights. We'll look at some intersection sight distance, some of those things to just make some recommendations there, how you can get pedestrians through. And then along Military itself, here's a look at a typical section or a couple of typical sections, but basically what we'd propose is having a wider sidewalk on the one side and then more of a standard sidewalk on the north side. And then we could carry that because today your bridge is 4 lanes. If we make your bridge 3 lanes, we're able to sort of shift that real estate around and provide a trail-sized sidewalk on the south side of the bridge. And that would connect, North Sioux City has a trail that runs down their river drive, and so that basically connects that whole system to Riverside. For the most part, throughout the corridor, there's really not a need for on-street parking, but we did, in our coordination with the local business owners, find about a block and a half where, for like barber shops and the old bait shop along there where if you took away the on-street parking, they really don't have any other option. And so we shifted the alignment over to provide several parking spaces through that area, but then for most parking, and that allows for that wider sidewalk again for the rest of the area. As far as intersection options, the 2 big ones for us were Boys and Edgewater. And so why consider any changes there? Well, that's a 5-legged intersection, and so there's some operational and safety issues. There were some comments that we received if somebody's trying to pull out at Edgewater and Boys at the same time. So eliminating that access as shown on the screen to Boys allows you to have a more standard 4-way intersection. Then that traffic from Boys could filter over through Edgewater or find other routes. One of the concerns from Hanson Plumbing as we talked to them was possible cut-through traffic of their parking lot. And so what we're showing is basically a raised median across Boys Street, and that would actually allow them to expand their parking to a better situation, I think, at least for them, to give them more room to store their vehicles and whatnot. And whether that's right away that's turned over eventually or kept in the city's name, those are discussions that we can definitely have with staff. But again, it kind of provides a little bit less cut through the neighborhood, forces some of that traffic onto the main road as people are coming out of the bank on Edgewater onto Military. Just provides them a little bit safer way onto Military than what they have today. The other benefit of closing Boys, and it's hard to see in this particular view, but I'll just point to it. Here's the start of one of those parking lanes, and so we're able to actually add some more on-street parking by closing Boys, where if you tried to keep it open, you'd have to move that parking and you may lose 2-3 spaces trying to do that. And the other one of a lot of discussion was the intersection at Riverside. We'd looked at 2 different options. One was a standard traffic signal, similar to what you have today. We would do some subtle changes to that intersection if it was left as a signal. The big one has to do with this, what I'll call a channelizer island. Today, you have southbound Highway 12, and those 2 lanes both come into their own lane. And the free right turn comes and there's a yield sign. And from reports we've gotten, people are not very good at seeing that sign or obeying that sign. And so there's a lot of potential conflict, as people come out of that free right turn with people coming through on Riverside, or even people turning off of Military onto Riverside, making that movement. And so what this design does is it makes that southbound right turn only. So if you're in that outside lane, you've basically got to go on to Military. If you're on the inside lane, then you come into your dedicated lane on Riverside, and that free right now comes through into its own dedicated lane. So you've eliminated that merge situation where you've got potential conflicts. So I think that's a good safety improvement at that intersection. These lanes, traffic-wise, are fairly well balanced, and so it works fairly well to segregate that traffic out. So the right turners from the through movements. I think there's also probably going to be some interest in potentially landscaping that island. It's a beloved island today by some, and I think there's some interest from the community to maintain that beauty and the opportunity for the community to basically contribute to the beautification of Riverside. As far as the roundabout option, that was another option, and I'll just go through, I've got a little list here, kind of some comparison points of what we looked at, but level of service is basically a measure of the delay through the intersection, and so we look primarily at your AM, PM peak times when people are going to and from work, and it's going to be the busiest time. Both intersection options operate at what we call level service B. Level service C is typically our cutoff. So really, it's pretty good. Level service A means that, you know, there's no delay whatsoever, basically. So you're probably never going to get that in a urban situation. But with the roundabout, it's a little bit better B. And then in the off-peak times, there's basically zero delay. So that's one of the major benefits of a roundabout, is that when you really don't have the traffic demand, you never have to wait for a red light. And for safety, the existing intersection has about 57 conflict points. So that's 57 different ways that you could get in a rear end or a T-bone or some other type of a side swipe accident. Where a roundabout, you reduce that to 10. So 57 conflict points down to 10, and none of those are T-bone accidents. So in general, there's huge safety benefits to roundabouts. Now, we also looked at actual in-service safety stats, and this intersection really doesn't show a lot of accidents, surprisingly, today, as much as you'd think. Military Road itself is actually a little bit above statewide average, but the intersection itself is actually a little bit below. So in some ways, that some regard for the potential for accidents, but really the history is not there that would indicate that there's an issue today. As far as cost, they're very similar in cost. The roundabout's actually a little cheaper to build, but you do have a little more right-of-way. So in the long haul, you probably pay more to build a roundabout now, probably disturb a little bit more property, but there's probably a little bit of maintenance and over your long term that you'd recoup those costs. But overall, very similar. As far as right-of-way with the roundabout, you are taking a big portion of the funeral home property. So you may end up with like a total acquisition where you damage out, 90% of that property or whatever it is, because you can't get to it. The building doesn't need to be taken, but all the parking lot would be. And then I think there's some parking issues with the Mexican restaurant there that would have to be addressed. And I think that's doable and included in our construction estimate. The roundabout actually moves a little bit farther away from the disabled vets building and the hotel there on the corner. With a traffic signal, I do think you're going to probably be looking at some right-of-way acquisition from at least 3 of those quadrants to improve the radius for trucks, to put your traffic signals in and then still maintain that free right turn. And then for funding, the traffic signal, would basically be as part of your overall budget, where the roundabout would probably also be that, but it would open up the possibility that we could seek some federal funds like a congestion mitigation, air quality type programs that are federal dollars that they look at roundabouts and say, hey, for that 20 hours a day that nobody's sitting at a signal, you're getting better air quality. So that would be an option with the roundabout option where we could seek that funding. That's not really an option for the signal.
How much would that offset, you think? What are those grants usually?
It really varies depending on, there's typically still a match, so like an 80-20 match or a 50-50 match, or up to a max, maybe $500,000 or something. But it does do quite a bit to offset that cost, potentially. As far as pedestrians, there is a concern there at that free right. You will probably have to do some special signing. There's really no way to get across it today. We could also look at potentially doing a raised crossing, which is a little bit different option, but it does provide some traffic calming and makes that movement a little bit safer for pedestrians. So there's some options there I think we can look at for pedestrians. With the roundabout, you really only have to cross one lane at a time, and traffic as they're coming into the roundabout is sort of naturally slowed down by those curb lines. And so I think a roundabout is a good option for improving pedestrian safety in general. Now, the other 2 big issues that up till now, the roundabout sounds really awesome, but there's a train track right there. BNSF has about 3 trains in the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. time frame and 3 trains overnight. And depending on who you talk to, it might be 20 trains a day. So, but that's from BNSF data. But the problem is if a train parks there and backs into the roundabout, can people even get to the roundabout, or are they stacking up along Riverside and along Military before the intersection? So that's a concern. I think you'd have to do some special design there, move your curb lines back and maybe do some paint, but then you lose the benefit of some of the traffic calming that a roundabout's there to do. And then the other big issue is the freight movement. Iowa DOT, as we talked to Iowa DOT, they have really control over it because it's a state highway. But we did pull oversized, overweight vehicles. And there were significant numbers of oversized vehicles going through the intersection, some as long as 120 plus feet. And so what we did is kind of take a look at what you'd have to do to that roundabout in order to get those mega loads through. And you'd have to have traversable center island and probably traversable splitter lanes. And it just, you're doing a lot of extra stuff to the roundabout to make it work for those movements. And so I think Iowa DOT, from a freight standpoint, we would design the roundabout pretty much to handle your standard semi-truck, but it's those oversized overweights that you'd have to do some special design for that may sort of take away from the other benefits of the roundabout. By the time you change the design to accommodate those.
Okay,
you
enough
lose
on
some
the
of other
roundabout.
benefits.
Let's move ahead, okay?
Okay, so by and large, at the end of the day, we're recommending a signal.
You're recommending
Because of
what?
those
I
issues.
didn't hear that.
As far as traffic control on the bridge itself, this is another major issue on the project. And basically, every time you do a bridge project, you're looking at basically 4 options. You can close it during construction, you can do it half at a time with a signal. You could build a new bridge on offset right-of-way or a temporary bridge. Basically, the bottom 2 options here really don't make sense for this project because we only need to replace the deck. We don't need to replace the piers and the beams to get the project done. So you're really solving a problem that isn't needed and causing a lot of other issues. So our analysis focused on half at a time and closing it in segments. So I'll kind of skip this slide a little bit if you guys are good with that, but basically goes through some of the reasons why we're not going to build a new bridge on offset alignment or a temporary bridge. There's a lot of throwaway costs there. As far as bridge at half at a time, this is sort of what that would look like, where you'd actually have to do 4 stages to get traffic open from River Drive in North Sioux to River Drive in Sioux City. And the reason for that is Iowa DOT standards limit you to a 500-foot long lane closure. And the purpose for that is your signal timing. Every time you have a red light, you've got to wait for all that traffic to clear the signal and get out the other side before you can let the other lanes go. And so your signal clearances are really long and will cause a fair amount of delay in and of itself of the project. We looked at costs associated with this as well as long-term maintenance issues. With half at a time bridge, you have another joint in the middle. There's construction safety issues with having workers while the bridge is open. And then as far as the time frame is concerned, you basically add another 5 months to your construction schedule. So we estimated that would basically add about $675,000 to the project budget between construction, extra construction costs associated with that, as well as extra engineering costs, because we've got to have an inspector out there and then do some special design things to make that work. So basically, here's a kind of a comparison quick of the two. Half at a time, you do theoretically get to keep it open. The detour on the temporary closure, half at a time, you're going to have long delays at that signal. Looking at 10 months compared to, say, 5 months for a closure. You have a construction joint and anchor holes where you had to bolt all your barrier to a brand new bridge deck, where if you close it, you could just build that bridge deck all in one pour. Half at a time, you have workers exposed to traffic, and then twice as long they're doing that construction. Where closure, you don't have any workers exposed to traffic. You work over the channel itself and cranes and swinging all that stuff, and there's a high power line on the south side. Is a lot more open and takes about half the time. And so that's where we looked at, basically adding another $675,000 to the cost of the bridge itself to try to keep it open. And then the benefits of doing that are, if you kind of do a little math lesson quick and kind of look at that 8,000 vehicles a day or so that are on Military Road, and say you have a 10-minute delay at a traffic signal, well, for 10 months, that's going to add up to 24 million minutes of delay, where if you close it and you do it in half the time, even if your detour takes 15 minutes, which I'll show you here in a second, I don't know that it necessarily will, maybe 18 million minutes of delay. So overall, you have less delay by closing it actually than with the signal. And then even compared to side, this is a little map. If you look I'll highlight the 2404 Riverside to 100 Military. That's basically the gas station there at Riverside to the casino area in North Sioux City. Today, you can make that trip in about 2 minutes. With the detour, it's about 9 minutes. So that's sort of your worst case situation where you're adding 7 minutes of travel on a normal day versus what you would have at a traffic signal could easily be more than 7 minutes, especially during those peak times. The other issue, this is a slide I think a lot of you guys have seen before, but basically that half at a time, while you've got that bridge down for 10 months, that's 5 extra months that you're routing traffic through the neighborhoods. And so that's a lot of traffic, filtering through Edgewater or Boys Street or however to get out. And then if you want to filter all those people down to a traffic signal on Riverside, you'd have to take them down to basically right. And then while the bridge is closed, if you did that, you could do that in basically 2 stages where you close the bridge down, maybe you build the Riverside intersection and some pavement. And then once you're able to open that up, you're doing that middle section. And this actually has some other benefits to business access during construction, so it allows us to give a little nicer split for how you get across at Boys or Fredette, during construction. So in summary, our recommendation tonight would basically be to construct that roadway and bridge under one project. And these numbers correlate to your alternatives in your packet, where the alternative would basically be don't do that, separate them out. That was a suggestion, but there's some cost and schedule savings by putting them together. We'd recommend to close Boys Street to simplify that intersection. Recommend a traffic signal at Riverside and Military, reconfiguring that directional island as I noted. Closing the bridge during construction. The option would be to leave it open, obviously. Number 5, basically to phase Military Road in segments, so that full road closure, but still trying to provide access at all times to all the businesses, and we'll have local detour signing with specific business names available for that. Number 6 would be an incentive-disincentive plan. This is one I think where we'd definitely welcome your input. The city of North Sioux City, when they voted to support the project as is here on March 20th, they basically, one of the things they said was, we'd like to keep the conversation open about, can we do an incentive to maybe get that 5 months down? Maybe if we throw the contractor some additional funds, that maybe it's less than a half at a time construction, but it gets the road open faster. So the other issue on disincentives is how stiff do you make those penalties if he doesn't get that open in 5 months?
How much do they want to pay? That's the question.
Right.
For North Sioux.
So is it a matter of, if North Sioux's willing to put up the funds for that incentive, then it's basically for them to offer, is what you're saying? And I think the city staff has a meeting with North Sioux to talk about the funding agreement, so I'm sure that'll be a question at that time. The other issue with North Sioux, I'll just bring up real quickly, is transit, and we'll talk with transit to get people that, walk across the bridge during the closure to try to accommodate those folks as well. We do recommend a 3-lane section without parking for most of the project. I gave you 2 bonus ones here. But we do recommend having some parking for that block and a half east of Boys Street to serve those businesses that use the on-street parking. And that's the whole enchilada.
Okay. Anyone want to be heard?
Oh, not on this topic. Is he saying citizens' concerns?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
My name is Tim Peifel, P-I-E-P-H-O. I'm CEO of Telco Triad Community Credit Union. We have a branch at 5500 Military Road. For us, it requires closure of our drive-up and our main parking lot during the time of construction. But more than that, I would like to ask, Morningside Avenue and Gordon Drive was both done in halves. Why is it necessary to close Riverside completely through the project? The fact about safety, closing the bridge all the way. They do it on interstates all the time. They do half of the interstate. So I don't believe that. So I would like to see it bid both ways and then act accordingly. Any questions?
Thank you.
Tim Jacobs, North Sioux City. One of the things I would like to know is if it's possible that the bridge can be started first to try to get it done ahead of your other project there in Riverside.
I'm not sure, well, I'm sure
Is
anything
it-
can be done, but I'm not sure, what do you gain by that? If the road's gonna be closed, then.
Well, if you do just a couple streets down, then you can go through as they had before and then finish the rest of your street in the intersection.
But I think you're staging it somewhat like that, right? You're doing part of the first phase of the construction and the bridge?
And there's no.
Because if we start at the bridge, after we do the other, then you're gonna lose the advantage of that. What they're proposing, I think, is they're gonna stage the construction right next to the bridge, so you'll be able to do what you're proposing, is that you'll be able to cross that bridge and go south to get it out of there.
Right, okay. That was one of the questions. And do you have any kind of date that's going, I know your bids are going to go out in what, November and then May you're.
Yeah, basically,
gonna let 'em-
the 2018 construction season and then potentially a little bit into 19 to finish up the project.
All right. Yeah, there was a lot of people concerned about that, if it's possible to get it opened, right away and put that first as the bridge.
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking at doing.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Ted Cherry, Cherry. I'm the city administrator in North Sioux City. Our city council voted on the 20th to support this project as planned, with closing the bridge completely at one time and getting it completely finished in one fell swoop, hopefully. We do have a few concerns which John touched on, the first being the transit system. There are a number of residents from Sioux City who use the transit system. Our numbers show about 12,300 people using the system into North Sioux City every day. And North Sioux does contribute some funds to the transit system every year. This year was about $23,000. So we would like to keep those talks open with the city and see if we can continue to have those transit options open for the community in North Sioux, for our businesses and for your residents. We also would like to talk some more with the city staff regarding the incentives that we can possibly offer to those contractors that are chosen for the project, so that we can hopefully get this section of the bridge completed in the most timely manner and completed as fast as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor, a citizen, Brad Wilson, asked me if he wasn't able to make it to the meeting today, and he asked me if I would read his letter to the council and to the mayor.
3 minutes.
Okay, tell me when to start.
Quickly.
Here's Brad Wilson's letter. I live at 3725 Military Road and have traveled this intersection multiple times a day for over 20 years. My experience with roundabouts, both in this country and other countries, has me concerned. I believe there are many reasons a roundabout is not a good fit on Military Road. There's a lot of heavy-duty truck traffic on this intersection, and to make the roundabout large enough to handle this traffic will encroach on the surrounding properties and make pedestrian crossings so far away from it they will not be used. Pedestrians routinely cross Military Road, and the traffic light gives them opportunity to cross safely, but they don't use the crosswalk, which is a short distance from where they cross. With a roundabout, there isn't a break in the traffic for pedestrians, so they have to cross quite a ways away from the roundabout, so there's time to get across before the traffic coming out of the roundabout reaches their point. In reality, this puts crosswalks over 100 feet from the roundabout. This will definitely make this intersection less safe for pedestrians. 5 entering streets also require a larger roundabout, compounding the problem with truck traffic. The railroad will block 2 of the 5 spokes of the roundabout, bringing the whole intersection to a halt, since there is no way to stop vehicles from entering the roundabout and plugging it up so no one can pass. Currently, traffic can flow both ways from the Riverside Boulevard to North Sioux, while the train blocks Military Road and Highway 12. My last concern is personal. The roundabout will stop the traffic breaks on Military Road that its residents rely on to get out of their driveways. This is a busy street, and there are times now it's hard to get out of your driveway. Without the breaks in traffic the light provides, it will frustrate and generate calls to the city. Military Road is a preferred route due to the lack of stops, making it easy to get across town. Unfortunately, we will end up with a steady stream to safely get out of your driveway, and will make backing out of your driveway near impossible at times.
Well, let's poll the council right now, because for me, the roundabout was dead on arrival.
For me too.
So let's put an end to that. That answers your question.
I like the idea of it, and the grant offsets costs, but yeah, I mean, I agree for that.
And be doubles, and you're never gonna get a double around a roundabout. So Iowa trucks can't do it, but South Dakota trucks can, which really is irritating, but nevertheless, it's reality, and you only have to go down to the Hard Rock roundabout to determine that people in pickups can't even make that roundabout there. So I don't know how you're ever gonna have semis do it unless you just basically make it an all-concrete roundabout. Otherwise, the maintenance will be a nightmare, which it'll be a nightmare anyway. So that's discussion's over. Now let's move on to the other issues.
Could I want to ask a question about Telco, though. Trey, may I ask you a question on that? Because where is that located for sure?
Right on the
Yeah,
edge.
let me pull that up, and I think, I think there'll be some discussion about how we get folks in and out. Brittany and I actually walked the site after our meeting with Telco, and I think we've got some ideas to keep circulation going through their drive-through. Let's see, how do I work this thing?
It's right on the edge. It's right down.
That's right, okay.
You need to campaign out there.
No, but the drive-through,
I know you didn't, you know, I have to campaign out there, so I know the neighborhood pretty well. I love Riverside on election day.
Especially at the last minute,
Those are my people
right?
out there.
Yeah. So this is Telco Triad right here at Edgewater, and here's Military Road. So what we're showing, again, that 3-lane section, the closure at Boys. And today, they come in here and they go through their drive-through and they come on out, or people come in this way and they park in their parking lot and then come on out. There is actually a city-owned right-of-way and an abandoned alley through here. So one option may be for construction is maybe put down some temporary gravel and allow people to come in the back that way while this entrance is closed off. That way they can still go through the drive-through as they do today. They will still have some issues as they come into their parking lot if this is closed at the same time. But I think those are maybe a little less dire than maybe eliminating your drive-through traffic during that time. Otherwise, they basically have to come in and make a U-turn and come back through one of the drive-throughs. So that's kind of what we're showing right now for that area. And I think there's some options to hopefully reduce some of the impacts during construction while military's closed.
How old's the water line in Military Road?
It's off the top of my head, it's pretty old. I'd say close to 100 years old from my recollection. Is that?
Yeah, Glen Ellis city engineer. Yeah, I think it's about 1910, 1913.
Anyone else be heard? Well, let me just say, 'cause I need to get going, but appreciate everyone coming. For those of you that think the council's made up their mind on this, I got news for you. This is the first time I've even looked at the project. So I have no, other than the roundabout when I heard it on TV that night, I was wondering how in the world that intersection would even be a candidate for it with the truck traffic. But then engineers live in a different world than I do, and that's why. But, so that's done. You know, I think it's imperative, listen, we obviously need the bridge repaired. There isn't any question about that. So I think it's really incumbent upon you to work with the city of North Sioux to determine what, if any, incentives are available. I personally, my vote will be to, no matter what, to bid it that way and determine if it's so cost prohibitive that we can't afford it or not. I'm not any less concerned about the businesses on the Sioux City side with that street construction as I am but the people on the South Dakota side. There are businesses in our side of the river too that are going to be adversely impacted by this. So, and I do have a real concern that we can do Morningside Avenue in 2 phases, but yet when we go out here, it's not an alternative. And that bothers me a little bit again, I guess because I do get a lot of votes out in Riverside on election day. And you can't tell me, and I know you're gonna, that the scope is so much different on this segment than it was in Morningside, because I'm not buying the argument. Anything can be built and engineered.
We had challenges with the construction on Morningside being half at a time.
It'll work for the Telco Triad Credit Union. It'll work. People will find those businesses. And it bothers me that we don't, it's just as wide a street here. There's no reason that it can't be done.
The other piece was the construction of the sanitary sewer, which typically is down the center of the road. On Morningside, it was offset to the north side, so we were able to switch things around and have more width to work with.
Listen, you can engineer that. It doesn't, the sanitary sewer does not have to go down the center of a street.
That's the situation on the Morningside. That's what we had to work with. I'm just kind of laying out some of the background.
Okay, well, okay, I'm not, listen, we need to move on. But for me, I think we ought to look at doing the whole thing in one lane at a time. We did it in Morningside Avenue. We owed it to those merchants, and we owe it to everybody else to do that. And you know what? If it costs more and we can't work with North Sioux, shame on us, but it's the right thing to do here.
Mayor, here's what I struggle with. First of all, can it be done in 5 months? What are the incentives?
It wasn't done in 5 months in Morningside.
Well, I know, but no, what are the incentives to reduce it from 5 months to something less and actually live up to that contract versus, and I think I talked to you folks about this, versus going out 10, and I say 10 plus months. I mean, you know, maybe you can do it in 10 months, but what happens if it's 12 months, 14 months? And I don't know, it just seems like to maybe look at it both ways. I mean, look,
put your
look at
law
the
office out there
look
and
at
close traffic down to your law office for even 5 months. That's impossible to do business. I'm just telling you, that's not fair to business owners. It's just not fair.
But I just want
to jump in.
Yeah.
Rick Law, I own a couple of businesses in North Sioux City and done a lot of homework and had a lot of sleepless nights over this project. The overriding thoughts are from my peers in North Sioux City are that apparently it's common knowledge that the Iowa Department of Transportation is contributing $1 million to this project in addition to the 1.6 that Sioux City has got. That Iowa DOT money could be withheld for a year, deferred for a year, and not jeopardize those funds. So if the bridge could be done in 19, it's not critical if the bridge gets done now. There is some efficiency to be gained by doing the bridge this year, but not a lot. You're only talking about mobilizing construction equipment in 2 different.
Not the same contractor anyway,
It isn't. That's precisely it. So the bridge could be done in 19. Military could be done with far less impact than closing down the entire bridge at once. Granted, it's not as efficient. There are extra costs. I've spoken to Secretary of Transportation of South Dakota, Darren Bergquist, about the fact that, you know, South Dakota's broke this year. They're at a big deficit, but and the general fund is segregated from the DOT money. So the question is, does DOT have any extra money to fund the extra efficiency that it would take to keep that half of the bridge open? Other factors are, of course, is that the bridge won't be as, I guess, as well done. Could shave off 5 to 6, 7 years, perhaps, the life expectancy of the bridge by doing it side by side, because you've got anchors and things to put these dividers in the middle of it and that sort of thing. But bottom line is, you know, you're talking about 35 years instead of 45 years. I think things will be dramatically different 35 years from now, and maybe we'll find the money by then to redo the 8-year loss or whatever. But bottom line is, as your mayor has just said, Mr. Scott, we're facing, potential extinction if this thing runs long. I don't know what your banker says to you, but my banker doesn't want me to come and tell him I don't have any revenue for 5 months. Mayor Randy Frederickson in North Sioux City at the informational meeting we had a week ago over there said that he drove every parking lot on a Friday night in North Sioux City, and 90% of the license plates were from Iowa. And as you know, people from Riverside and all over North Sioux City work at a variety of factories and whatnot in the industrial areas of North Sioux City. And likewise, they participate in the economic activity over there, whether it's restaurants or casinos or optical places or what have you. And so consequently, you shut that down and you're jeopardizing, as Mayor Scott said, you're jeopardizing virtually every business over there. I don't know anybody, including myself, that could withstand 5 months of a decrease of revenue. Even if 50% of our customers do decide to take the interstate, it's either in the industrial area. So there are a lot of different factors to consider here, very few of which have been brought to light. And I think this probably deserves a little bit more study, but bottom line is, as the mayor just said, we're facing, some of us at least could be facing extinction. And that's not any different than the folks on Military Road. Granted, it'll be done in phases, but when the bridge is completely closed, the folks on Military Road in Sioux City have specifically said, the business owners that I've had communications with there have specifically said, most of their business comes from North Sioux or Riverside, of course, but they won't be able to withstand that kind of a closure, either a complete closure. So it's less efficient. We all know that. We're hoping for a middle-of-the-road solution. Staggering these two projects in 2 different years without jeopardizing any federal funds or any DOT funds or anything else involved seems to make a lot more sense. But again, it's how efficient do you want to get and at what cost?
Yeah, well, personally, here's where I'm at. I want you to lay out all the different ways you could build that thing. Because I want to make what I think is the right decision at the end of the day. And what incentives you envision that would take to do that. And then somebody needs to tell me, how did Iowa end up owning this whole bridge? This is unbelievable to me.
It doesn't, I know.
Well, that's what some of these memos have been saying, and they're gonna turn it back over to South Dakota after we
City of Sioux
rebuild.
City owns half the bridge, the state of South Dakota owns half the bridge.
Okay, how come South Dakota's not throwing any money in the project?
They're paying for half the construction of the bridge. The bridge
That's the first time, because all the other memos have led me to believe that they weren't paying.
No,
I didn't
that's
read
some
that.
letters that have gone around from residents, but no, that's the state of South Dakota, we're finalizing an agreement with them right now to pay for half the bridge, which is 1.3 million. We're paying 1.3 million, which $1 million of ours is funded through bridge replacement dollars.
Right.
To be clear on that point, there still is nothing in writing. South Dakota hasn't committed to anything in writing. And at the March 6th informational meeting in North Sioux City, project manager Brittany Anderson, who's done a good job of keeping us informed on all these things, but they hadn't admit anything in writing. And of course, we're all scared out of our wits not having South Dakota on the hook for any of this stuff. Now, I understand there are negotiations in place, but nothing's been signed, and so.
We're not doing any bridge if I get to vote on it until South Dakota's paying for part of the
We won't
bridge.
do the project, we won't come up with an extra $1.3 million to do the bridge. Yeah. If South Dakota doesn't participate.
Right, well, we expect.
Within 4 years, the bridge will be weight restricted, so you'll have no semi-traffic on it, and then shortly after that, it'll close.
Well, we expect, I think everybody plans on South Dakota contributing, but.
I mean, the bridge deck is failing. The bridge deck is, it's the point of failure. So, I mean, you're gonna have.
Got a lot of trucks go over 18th Street with a bridge deck that was a lot worse than this one. And that bridge was never embargoed.
Well, according to our bridge inspector, it'll be embargoed. They say 4 years is what the life is left in it.
Yeah. Help me out too.
I need to get to my office. You guys go ahead.
Well,
That's
help me
where I'm
out.
at, okay?
So based on, and I think you made good arguments, but based on that, really, any incentive to put it down to 4 months or even 3 months really doesn't.
Absolutely, that's our
That's
hope,
what I want
is
to be
that.
clear on.
Yes, and last Monday night, the North Sioux City Council did vote in some way, shape, or form with some hypothetical number, as far as I'm aware, to contribute to incentivize the contractor. Needless to say, North Sioux City doesn't have the wherewithal that South Dakota DOT or Iowa DOT or Sioux City has. So the North Sioux City Council did take a vote.
A lot more wherewithal as a per cap than we do.
That may well be true. But they did vote to participate by incentivizing, which is a really good step forward. So if we can cut this from 5 months down to 2.5 months or something, that would be
We have
better.
to be
but still.
careful there because, you know, if, I'm all about the incentive. I have no problem with that. But when you start throwing money out at somebody, they're going to hopefully not do a shoddy job. You know,
Well, that's right. And
That's
I guess
what would worry me because I don't want them pushing it through.
engineers, these guys will tell you that there will be people inspecting this project thoroughly. But the bottom line is typically what that money is used for is to put on extra shifts and to work weekends and nights and that kind of thing, which is absolutely possible. Sure, there are going to be a few weather days, but if they can work weekends and nights and have this extra money to finish, and then they get these bonus dollars to finish, you know, ahead of schedule. And then I noticed in Mr. Marburger's presentation, there's a disincentive also. So if they run over, I think those are critical elements to this project.
Another thing I want to comment on is I understand exactly what North Sioux is talking about when it comes to closing the bridge down. I get it. When I had my business, my bar down by Cunningham Drive, I was closed for, tell me, it had been over a year. So, and I survived it. So my point is that if you get innovative out there, and if we're even talking 5 months, and it's going to be over the summer, you know, they could come up with ideas with, you know, different kinds of events and, you know, promoting yourself.
Yeah,
you know,
sadly, it wouldn't really be over the summer. This project would be, and John, you could speak to this, but it would theoretically be starting in March, which is the height of, at least in my world, is the height of tax return season. There still isn't any, you know, baseball, nobody's playing golf and all that sort of thing. So people are still, as you might know, you know, staying indoors and doing indoor stuff.
I understand, but I made, you know, I knew it was coming. So I booked different events. I did different events. I got people, and you know, when you're, you know, going through this for over a year, I'm talking 4 seasons. I'm not talking March, you know, and I did survive it, but you know what? It wasn't easy.
Yeah, it'd be hard to imagine.
And it almost killed me, but
yeah.
You know, you're talking 5 months. These people have the interstate. You're talking Iowa people coming over. I'm sure they're not all coming over the military bridge. I'm sure they're coming around on the interstate too. And one more thing, when you have good customers that are gonna take care of you, that's what it's all about. And these businesses have been here for years and years. They're gonna have people that support them. So that's where I'm coming from.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we all hope for the best, but we have to anticipate the worst. And so if it's as Councilman Moore has said, what if it's extra? What if it's 8 months? What if it's 9 months or 10 months?
Well, honestly, you don't know that. You know, here's my problem I have with this is I want to get it done. I want to get it done right, and I want to get it done fast.
You bet.
Okay, and I'm telling you, this is the best scenario. 5 months is the best scenario because it's going to get done. We're just talking amount of time and when. For me, I think we need to get it done, get past it, and continue on.
You bet. There's a big contingent of people of that mindset. Unfortunately, things happen and difficulties occur and so on and so forth that we can't foresee. And so we all want it to get done as quickly as possible. I couldn't agree more. That's the best outcome for everybody is to get it done as quickly as possible. And by the same token, we'd like to get it done as efficiently as possible. But I think that, you know, the other factor that has to be weighed is, you know, how is everybody being impacted? The people people along Military Road in Sioux City, you know, all the way from Riverside, you know, through Bennett.
They're going to be impacted anyway. Either way you look at it, people are going to be impacted.
Well, there are a variety of ways of doing this. As Mayor Scott just said, not to be argumentative here, but as Mayor Scott just said, there are many ways of doing this. Some are less efficient than others, but the impact on the individuals involved that are being has to be weighed against the cost. You know, there's a cost-benefit relationship, and obviously, as I pointed out to North Sioux City Council last Monday night, it's incumbent upon the City Council, even if the cost isn't pro rata, but it's incumbent on any city council to protect its citizens and protect its tax base. You know, North Sioux City is going to take a big hit in its property taxes. You know, Sioux City is going to, the families who work in North Sioux City every day are going to take a $600, $600 hit in terms of expense in driving those extra miles. You know, it's going to take extra time for them, all that sort of thing. I mean, there isn't a perfect scenario here. Nobody gets everything they want. But we just think in terms of reasonableness that it is an unreasonable in doing the Military Road project in 18 which would seem to be more efficient, instead of compounding the problem by making people snake around through a neighborhood in addition to
Well, they're
closing the
going to
bridge
do a lot of
completely.
checking
So-
on it for us, so we'll
So
see what they
we're
come
gonna
up
look
with.
we're gonna look at the alternatives then, and the options.
Well,
We have
I
time
don't
to
think we
do
have
that?
much alternative anymore.
I mean,
Well, we're gonna look at the incentive.
bidding it out, I think I said, and I was trying to look up what the memo said, if we want to try to do all the construction one half at a time, which can be done, it's not saying that it can't be done, but it's a significant cost. I think we had it at somewhere about $1.8 million. So, I mean, if we want to invest that additional money in this project, we can construct the road one half at a time. The other thought was to bid it out each way, although that's going to be a significant change to JEO's contract, because that's not what they included, was bidding it out both ways, because it will change the design if you're constructing it one half at a time versus you're constructing it at a whole time. So I guess we're looking for direction at this point, because we're going to final design. Do we want it bid out both ways, which is gonna, like I said, we'll have to negotiate a new contract with them? Or do we want to proceed with constructing it one half at a time, the reconstruction, which I think has got significant cost to us? Or do we want to proceed with the plan that's currently on the table of doing the closure, staging the reconstruction project to best get our traffic back open as quickly as possible?
That's where I'm at.
Your memo, Dave, did say half at a time we would incur an additional $1.82 million.
Yeah, that would include doing the bridge and the street reconstruction, both half at a time.
Right. And I guess the bridge would still have to be one lane at a time, so you're going to have a traffic signal. We haven't studied, nor is it part of our scope to study the half at a time on the road, but like Dave's saying, you'd probably have to push traffic over to keep 2 lanes open. There's no way you'd want to do 6 blocks under a traffic signal. And so you'd have to figure out a way to keep 2 lanes open on the existing, which is currently a 2-lane road, where like Morningside is a 4-lane road today. So there's just typically more real estate and pavement on some of those other projects.
I mean, we were tight doing Morningside, and this street is 5 foot narrower than Morningside.
It just doesn't make any sense to me that we're even considering this, because let's just get it over and done with. I mean, I understand what all these businesses are going to, go through, but I've been through it. I get it. I understand it. I survived it. So, and my whole predicament was way, way longer than what this whole thing is going to be. And I had one in and one out, and it was way far from my bar. And you can imagine. And then I go to work and have a cop car sitting there at my one entrance. Now, that's, how would you like to deal with that? You talk about losing money? It was not a good thing.
I like the lease.
I do too. I had a nice little visit with him that night. I said, I don't know what you're doing here, but you need to
Oh,
move.
yeah, we would be all for an incentive, and I guess that's direction we're looking for from you guys. I guess
That's
the
what
first thing
I'm thinking.
is what do we want to proceed with the current plan, or do we want to look at bidding in alternatives, or do we want to look at changing it to doing all half at a time? Is there?
I think we need to look at it at the incentive. That's
I
the
guess
smart.
my 2 cents is I think there are a lot of moving parts here. And I think the biggest component for me is I want to get and see what North Sioux is willing to do and the conversations that they would be willing to have. Whether that's incentivized, whether they feel that their business patrons or people that own businesses in that stretch really are pushing for this. How is North Sioux City feeling about it?
Right. And North Sioux City.
Where are they able to come to the table, and what creative solutions can we create to make this best for everyone? Because I totally understand Rhonda's point. I think that the faster we can get the project completed, maybe the better. But I also understand that even 2 to 3 months can be detrimental to a business. I'm very respectful and understand that. So I see how, and the mayor's point about, that we did this, and I understand there are different moving parts and how it's different than Morningside Avenue. Don't think that I don't see that. But I do think that we need to do our due diligence of at least having this conversation. I think there are a lot of parts at play, and I know that my mind isn't made up either way. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and see who's willing to come to the table and at what expense.
Talk to the Morningside businesses and see how it affected them. I'm sure that they did not have a good day, but at the end of everything, everything's working out. Morningside Avenue's done. It's all taken care of. Happened with this, the same thing. And how long is Morningside Avenue closed? It was quite a while.
That was 2 stages though, too.
Yeah, it was the entire construction season, so
Yeah.
8 months.
But and you could also argue though that Morningside Avenue has a lot of different outlets to go to
Sure.
the back of the building and
Well,
numerous
so do
other
they. They have
streets.
the interstate for God's sake. I mean,
Two I'll go through 'em.
Yeah, I
that's
think,
pretty big.
Rhonda, though, I think we need to look at it both ways.
And we're gonna
Whatever
be paying
Waters
for
is saying.
it. I mean,
You want to bid it both ways, Dan?
Well, I think we have to look at it seriously.
Well, what that's going to require then is an adjustment to the engineering contract, that the city would have to bear that cost.
that's gonna be.
So does it hurt to talk to North Sioux and talk to the different players and see where everyone is at?
Well, they
and get
have.
more?
I think North Sioux's already voted to support the project as is, to close the bridge and
City
do it
council
in
has voted.
segments.
It was a unanimous vote, 8-0 to 9-0.
The city council voted, and as they continued to debate, they lost more and more of their business constituents, and people began to walk out of what was earlier quite a packed room. People began to dissipate as they saw that their case wasn't being made effectively.
But they would do incentives. They were talking about incentives though.
That's one thing that the city council was in agreement on, is that they wanted to incentivize
Second
things.
here, Rick. Yes, the city council, you voted unanimously last week to support the project as is. Again, we are very open to having those conversations regarding incentives, regarding finishing the bridge in a timely manner. Any incentives that the city of Sioux City needs to offer for finishing the streets on their side, I mean, that's gonna be on you. We are very aware of the business concerns that have been brought forward to us. We had a meeting at City Hall on March 6th. Probably about 80 to 90 people attended that meeting. These people were there as well and heard all of those concerns. So by no means is the city council in North Sioux City neglecting the opinions of the business community, but
There wasn't a single person that testified on Monday night in favor of this project being done the way it's done, yet the city council voted on it anyway. Are you trying to tell me that that respects the concerns
Let's
of the
do
people
this,
that
let's
brought
do
those?
this. We've got to bring it back anyway. We're not taking a vote tonight, so let's look at the options, discuss it with North Sioux, see what their contribution's going to be, and come back with some ideas on that before we alter the contract. But I'm just telling you, I don't know if you're going to have the votes to proceed with it as is, but I guess that remains to be seen. So have the discussion with North Sioux, have it with the state of South Dakota, and bring it back, what, a week from today?
I don't know, we won't be able to get you those answers in a week, so.
How-
and
2 weeks?
And the only concern is that we're kicking this down the road, we are going to miss our construction schedule.
Okay,
So,
well,
I mean, if we will, I mean, that's going to be a serious
well,
concern.
it wasn't on the agenda for a vote today.
No,
so
we were looking for direction on items in the agenda, and if we're not
We're
sure
going to
about
eliminate the roundabout,
the.
correct?
Yep, we're good there.
And we're going to talk to the other,
Talk to North Sioux
we're going to
about
talk to the other
incentivize.
parties about incentives, about
The biggest
reducing.
concern is the designing it two different ways to bid it out, or if we want to change how we're going to do the
Well,
construction.
And what's the additional cost attached to
If we try
designing
to
it?
construct it all a half at a time, we're looking at about $1.8 million.
No, if we just look at bidding it both.
Just the
But you
design?
can't bid it
John will
both
have
ways
to look
without
at that.
designing it both ways.
Yeah.
Design it both ways.
Okay.
And the extra,
John will have to look at that. I'm sure he couldn't give you an answer tonight.
Yeah, I hate to give you a number right off the bat. Our current contract is upwards of $800,000. So if you basically have to do 2 sets of plans, if you consider about half of that is, in the design. And then for any construction, if you're going to spread your construction beyond that 10 months, all that adds into the design and construction fees. So we're certainly open to doing more work. I've never complained about that, but from a,
I mean, I think we initially estimated about 200,000 on just the design cost.
right. And so the way
that's what he had, 220 in here. Your memo, your last memo said 220 or
Yeah.
something like that?
right, and that's without really looking hard at it, I guess.
Yes.
But we definitely would want more time and more funds to do that
Well,
analysis.
It seems to me that we're leaning towards trying to get more information on the all at once to include an incentive, disincentive package, which might reduce the time period and maybe, I guess it won't reduce the cost, but essentially just reduce the time period. So what do we need to do to figure that out first? Or do we have to do both at the same?
As far as working with North Sioux, are you looking for them to be 100% participant? Or are we looking to split the participation on incentive, disincentive?
Well, I think I'm looking to see exactly what they'll do.
Okay.
And so we know where our expenses are, because you hate to say it, and maybe it'll be different here, but generally to money. And we're talking somewhere in the area of $2 million now more, that expenses that we would incur if we stretch it out and do it half at a time. So we need some help, if it's through an incentive, disincentive program, if it's through other people contributing to the program, be it South Dakota DOT or North Sioux City or the Dakota Valley Business Council or whoever else. I'm not sure if they have funding available, but.
Well stated. That's what I'm in favor of having you do.
I would agree.
If I can interject, it seems like we're looking a lot at the cost side of this thing, the cost of construction, but has anybody done any economic impact study at all?
No, and you brought that up earlier, and I think we have to have staff.
On the what, Rick, did you say?
I feel the need to add something.
Economic impact study?
Just a minute, though. We need to start moving on. What were you going to say?
I just need to add something. We need to point out that the obligation of the city council, the city of Sioux City, is to protect our taxpayers and our businesses, and to the extent that we can accommodate. But we can't just add to a project and add millions of dollars onto our taxpayer based on the desire of the city of businesses of the city of North Sioux City. Our obligation is to protect our taxpayers.
And that's what we're saying.
And that's what we're trying to do, yes.
And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're not saying automatically add it on. We need to get some more information. Economic impact, I'll leave it up to you if an economic impact's been done on the businesses. I would think some of it's been done by now, but maybe they didn't do any of it. I don't know if the chamber did anything. So we should look at that too then, probably.
To your point, Mr. Padmore, a good number of the constituents that I've been in contact with and that I've been working with in kind of trying to gather information and learn more about the project were on the Sioux City side of the bridge. I'd have to say almost more Sioux City residents than non-Sioux City residents. And they don't expect, some kind of massive subsidy for a couple of dozen people in business, but clearly it won't be pro rata either, so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Is anyone else to be heard on this item? Do you feel like you have some clear?
Does that help, Dave, and all?
Pardon?
No, I think we do. I think the issue we're going to have is coming up with solutions that are financially viable.
Well,
maybe suggest some direction. Come up with what an appropriate incentive would be for a 4-month process, and then a recommendation on how it should be funded, whether based on the properties on both sides of the river, what each property should participate, and then come back with what that would be.
We can do that.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Makes sense.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. And thank everyone that participated in the discussion. I think it's been helpful. And I think we did listen as a council, so we'll see where it goes. Citizen concerns. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening to all the city council members.
Good evening.
I thought I was going to grab the mayor, but I see that didn't happen. My name is Marva Baguette. I live at 1331 South Maple, apartment F12, Sioux City, Iowa, 51106. I'm sounding a little different tonight because I got a cold. Most of you know I've been down here before. It was last year, though, on this. 3 years ago, when I came into Sioux City from my home, which is Des Moines, Iowa, I came here to support my daughter, Cassandra, who's in college here. She goes to WIT, and she also works as her mom does. I also work, and she works as a certified pharmacy tech for Walmart in Singing Hills. Well, anyway, Cassandra stated to Mom, but she said the bus system really needs some help here. She said it's so different than Des Moines and the other beautiful places, that we have traveled to. So I started on this project about 3 years ago when I first got here. I sent a few emails to you all. I don't think you knew who I was, so I didn't get a response, but it was okay. So when the land that had a hole in it, and Keith was on the board also then, and the mayor sent someone out to fix it, and I want to thank you guys first of all for that. You did such a beautiful job, and it really helped what's supposed to be private property. You guys helped it because we weren't getting the help. So this is why I'm back in here, because of not the apartment building this time, but it's about the transit, which the transit system here, the city buses. Okay, I believe in being active. I'm just a little nervous tonight, but bear with me. I believe in being active in the city where I live in, even though this is not Des Moines. Des Moines is my first love because that's where I was born and raised, along with my mom and everyone. But anyway, I have spoken to over 2,000 transit bus riders. Sioux City, South Sioux City, in case some of you don't know where it goes, and over to North Sioux City. And they all would like to see changes in the bus system. And they would love to see some of the nice professional bus drivers who they have come to know and love down through the years full-time. Some of you might not know that they're not even full-time drivers. There's quite a few that are just part-time. You see them all the time, so you think they're full-time, but they're really not. But anyway, if they can't get on full-time, I've talked with some of the drivers. They said they would like a increase in hours, supplement to their paycheck. And I just want to name a few: Howard, Lance, Ricky, Daisy, some of the females, some of the best drivers: Don, Dwayne, Mike. In closing, I'm just going to close it because there's been so much talk during this session that you guys don't need to hear much more from me. In closing, okay, I had brought with me this time, if you want to take a look at it, I don't have time, and I don't know, you guys probably don't have time for me to put it on the board, but I brought a presentation of hundreds of signatures that I went out personally and got from some of my ex-employers. They allowed me to stand outside their doorways while the customers were coming out. I've worked for 6 Hy-Vee stores in 3 different cities, and Cedar Rapids, Davenport, well, actually more than 3 cities, but so I did the South Sioux store because I was working there, and I did the Hamilton Hy-Vee, and we did Walmart's because I've worked for them, and they were very kind and understanding because a lot of the bus people, shop at their stores. So they said, yes, get signatures, show city council that the bus system needs help. And the petition that I drew up the last time I was here, or I should say started it, what it basically says is, I'll read it to you. This is a petition requesting that the hours of the operation of the Sioux City, Iowa, South Sioux City, Nebraska, and the North Sioux City, South Dakota bus services be extended from the existing Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. hours to 5:30 p.m. And the new hours the people are requesting are Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. In other words, they would like the buses to run till 9:30 p.m. And here are just a few. Oh man, I heard so many reasons why they want it, I mean, people were astounded when they found out the buses cut off at 5:30. They're like, well, this is a business city. How does anybody get anything done if they have to, stop taking the bus at 5:30?
Right.
But just a few things. It will be good for commerce. Bus riders will have transportation to and from their second job, or if their management asks them to work a different shift, they'll be able to get back home because the situation is now they can get to a job, but sometimes they can't get back home because there's no transportation. And then bus riders, they've said over and over, I've heard a lot of them say they would like to shop for groceries and other items at late hours of the night. Some of your Hy-Vee stores are open 24/7. And I don't know, Walmart is too.
Well, may I suggest this then?
Yes,
and
please do.
Thank you for your good work on this. May I suggest that you meet with our Assistant City Manager, Mike? Use the information, please give him the petition.
Okay.
And give him the information, and then Mr. Collette will study it with you and.
Thank you.
And
That's
get
all
back
I
with
needed.
council.
That's all I wanted to hear.
But thank you for your good work on that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you.
You bet.
Hey, Sherry.
Hi.
Sherry.
Okay.
I'll use my future voice. Sherry Flynn, before I say anything, I want to preface my remarks. I'm 72 years old and I've owned several homes. Never once in my entire life have I ever complained about city taxes. I may not like how you use them, but I appreciate the fact that I have clean water, I have sewage, I have safety, I have fire. I never complain. Where I live is, I don't even think we make lower middle class in my neighborhood. My house is 24 by 24 feet. My basement you access by lifting up a trap door and scooting over the side until you can find a step. I have an unusable garage because the alley the city is not taking care of it. The neighbors have built out on it, couldn't get to my garage, couldn't use it even if I could. I have one bedroom. My bathroom floor space is about 3 feet by 4 feet. My inside of my house is not nice. It needs a lot of work, which I can't put into it. And just this week, I received my new tax assessment. I had more than a 24% jump in my home assessment. You almost pushed me out of my house at this point. I don't know that I can make this, because along with the assessment, probably some of the things you don't think about is when you're buying a house, you have to carry full replacement value. So, you know, my home insurance is going to go up by 25%. And I sat there and I thought, you know, almost all of my life, a lot of you know what I've done. I've worked with poor people, I've worked with disabled people, and I worked with the elderly. And I thought, and I'm probably a little bit better off than some of them. I have maybe a couple $100 coming in more than my Social Security. And I can't do this. I bought my house 15 years ago because I knew when the post-polio got bad enough, I was going to have to retire. Well, the year after that was when I lost about 40% of my retirement income because the stock market went bad and I couldn't work long enough to ever put any of it back. So I am definitely qualify as poor, disabled, and elderly. And if this is going to happen to everybody on my street and I look at them, I've got a lady who's 83 with severe arthritis. I've got somebody catty corner on the other side who is post-polio. His wife has had massive strokes and can barely talk. The people down the street from me are both dying and they're elderly and they're having a hard time making it. What are we gonna do if they're gonna raise all of our,
Assessed values.
our assessed values?
May I suggest,
by 24%.
yeah, may I suggest this? Have you talked to the city assessor yet about this, Al Jordan?
I think they laughed.
Well,
And they told me
no,
to
I don't
come.
think,
I went to the assessor's office and they said, well, everybody's paying a lot of money. You're not any different than anybody else, and if you want, well, come back next week and you can fill out this form or something.
to go to the board of review, which is,
And then I would
which
have
hears
to
it.
go to the board of review.
And those are peers that will listen to your case and they will make adjustments accordingly.
No,
Because
I
it's
don't believe that they will.
Well, because it's in their hands, it's out of our hands as far as what the assessed value.
What I've heard over and over again is housing is such on an upswing. Everybody's buying these places for outrageous amounts of money. But what are you doing to the poor, the elderly, and the disabled? Because as long as this keeps going up and they're saying, you know, we don't have enough housing, that's what it's assessed at, not by any stretch of the imagination.
And that's an important key, you know that.
What do you do to the people who have worked all their lives, they're elderly, and all of a sudden they can't afford to stay in their house?
Mm-hmm.
And I would like the city to at least look at the fact that there are cities who say that, who will freeze taxes at a certain level and allow some of these people to maintain their homes. Because I think I'm probably close to right now with the other things that are going on in Iowa, medical care wise, I think I'm probably going to have to leave. And I had really hoped that this was the last move I was going to have to make. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, please don't give up on the fact that we have a system in place that works quite well. And I know you're saying they won't make changes, but they will. There are also elderly tax credit programs.
And I think I'm about $50 over on that.
Available. But there are programs that need to be reviewed by someone that has knowledge to do that, whether it's the city assessor or the board of review. Am I leaving anything out?
No, other than the city council has no control over the assessment process or the setting of
I know
values.
that you don't.
But what
you
she's
are
asking-
still part of the city, and you want, I've always had the city council say, what is it that makes you stay in Sioux City?
Right.
And this, I just want you to know that this is probably one of the reasons I'm not going to be able to stay.
But don't give up yet, is all I'm asking, because the system's in place. You've just made a great argument for your own assessed value. You wouldn't be able to sell your home for what it's assessed at. That's the first question the Board of Review asked me. They'll say, would you sell your home for what it's assessed at? And I'd say, well, no, I'd sell it for a lot more than that. You know what I'm saying? Because the assessed value might be low. You have a great case. You have to trust the system and trust the process and give it a chance to work.
Well, I certainly did not get any encouragement.
Well, I'll tell you what, because I work with the city assessor a lot. If you want some help for free, I'll at least get you your case in front of them, including the board of review. And then if you strike out, then you can say, what do I do now? But there's plenty of opportunity for the system to work. And you said it's worked well for you over the years. You've never complained.
No, I said.
And
well,
now
I
you're at a
complained about
crossroads
my
now.
taxes. Look, I'm the crazy old lady who on Thursdays, if I can get to my door, I open it and thank the garbage men and tell them thank you and wave. I'm the one who, when they block off my street multiple times and I can't get there except 2.5 blocks by city street, go over and thank them for the work that they've done. So I've never complained, but I have gotten, it's gotten more and more and more frustrating. They have way more than doubled the price of my home in the last 3 years.
Well, and Sherry, I've known you for quite a while, and I respect you a great deal. And I think that being in our situations, we have had to face adversity in a very frustrating at times way, and I understand that, and I hope that you know that I level with you on that. But I do know that I have had to fight for what I thought was right, and that involves going through to the State House, calling people that are representing me, saying that this is unfair and this is how it's going to negatively affect me. I've had to do that, and it's not that I wanted to do that, but I felt that I had to. You have to stand up for what you believe is right, and I think that
you have no idea how many days and days I have spent at the city capitol. There are a whole bunch of people.
And I know, because I've been there fighting with you. You know what I mean? That's how I first met you.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is I just want to encourage you to take Dan up on his, Councilman Moore up on his offer to help you with this, because I think that we can. And I wouldn't say it if I didn't know that there weren't these things in place. I know that it's hard, but I want you to at least try those things and then come back to us if there's still an issue. That's what I would just encourage you to do.
I have had to fight my entire life. I could never get insurance. You don't get it when you're an old polio patient. I have fought for every single thing I've done I've worked at I've been turned down by jobs because they said, we don't want to pay your medical bills with our insurance. I fought all my life, and all of a sudden, health isn't good, and I'm too old for doing this anymore.
What's your address again?
What?
What is your address again?
1201 South Main Street.
Okay.
And I think maybe that's the frustration, but I know a lot of people in my situation. They're old and they are tired of fighting.
That kind of works into Ann, who I hope will be appointed to our senior advisory committee to work on these very issues you're talking about.
Well, I had
Right,
the
Ann?
paperwork, but I ended up in the hospital in Sioux Falls.
Ann, this is all making sense, isn't it?
Huh?
I'm talking to Ann.
Many people in her situation that just don't have the money to, pay these taxes when they go up.
Yeah.
No, I mean, what are we gonna do? And like I said, I had my paperwork, I was gonna fill it out, but I ended up at hospital in Sioux Falls, and I'll probably end up paying for that.
We'll follow up with you, okay?
Sherry, can you write down your address and phone number, so?
What?
Can you write down your phone number and everything to give it to Dan?
We have it on the card.
Yeah, they
Okay,
have.
all right. Okay, we're good.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I'll be in contact with you, thank you. Anyone else, citizen concerns? All rise.
Oh, Tim, I was wondering what was taking you so long. What's up?
You missed the 6 o'clock news.
Jeez.
5 o'clock too. Tim Seaman,
10 o'clock.
4910 6th Avenue here in Sioux City. I'll be brief. I serve as the president of the EFAB board, which I think all 4 folks know. Obviously, council members know that. And we missed being on the agenda to be able to make a presentation today, but we did want to be here at least in the public comment segment, and we'll make sure that we get on the agenda in the future. But I did want to just take time to make sure that you knew where our board was at. There's been a lot of discussion in the last couple of weeks as you move forward and prepare to act officially on the hotel project that's part of the reinvestment district project as a whole, just to make sure that everyone on the council knows how supportive the EFAB board is at this point. I need to point out that it is an economic development project. It's not an EFAB project. So we haven't had any official votes on it or anything like that at this point. We've been made aware of it through Mr. Doherty and his people in the Economic Development Office, and we've talked about it, but we haven't had official votes, so I don't want to sound like I'm telling you everyone on our board has voted yes, but there's sound support for the hotel. It makes a lot of sense. You can go back as far as 2004, I think it was, when the councils first started looking at ramp improvements in that district. You've put in the Heritage ramp is an anchor at one end. The United Real Estate Building is another part of that district that I think has helped create energy in that area. You can look at the historic 4th Street improvements, the energy that has brought to the area. The Promenade Theater project is another part of that. Just in the last month, you've awarded or have agreed to spend a lot of money on wastewater retention and green space development in the Promenade area. All of those things add up their steps that help to grow that area, to bring business to town, to create a new energy. A hotel is the next huge step that makes that happen. There's been some people that have talked about, you hear different comments and whatnot of that. Not a lot of people have come forward and said this is a big deal to them, so why should we spend money on it and move forward? And I guess I would just say you have to remember it's not a school you're closing. It's not the corner grocery store that I'm not going to be able to buy my milk at. It's at a hotel that out-of-town people come to. And so the people that will be excited about this are out-of-town people that will come here for conventions or weddings or to do business. It's not one of those pillars that I think draws great feedback from Mr. and Mrs. Sioux City. I think it probably has drawn some feedback from some of the other hotel property owners, which I totally understand that they have a vested interest in there, so that I think you have a responsibility to the investments that you've made in that district. And this is another piece of that district that will continue to do that. I mean, over the last 5 years, just off the top of my head, I know Bob probably has the number, but there's been more than $1 million in investments to the convention center in the last 5 years. If we did that, we didn't do it without a purpose. And this is another piece of that purpose. So to just torn away doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because we've been doing things to help grow that district, and a hotel would be the next best thing. So I don't want to linger on here, it's late, but we look forward to any discussions that any of the council members want to have, the mayor as well. Unfortunately, he's not here, but and I know that you'll be hearing from other people too, whether it's different associations downtown or other businesses. It is an important step, and I hope that you will feel good about making that step and continuing with that process whenever it comes before you.
Tim, try to get on the agenda.
I will next time.
Yeah.
Well, Tim,
But I'm glad to be here.
Tim, and
No,
I
thank you.
appreciate your remarks, and the hour is late, but I think there's some common misunderstanding too of what the facts are, even though the Sioux City Journal has reported accurately over the months and the TV stations have reported accurately. There's still some misunderstandings, I think, of exactly what all the numbers are. There's even misunderstandings about if you don't do the hotel, what does that mean for the Ag Equestrian Center? And how does that affect it? So there are a lot of moving parts there. And I think what we need to do, and I don't know if tonight's the night to do it, but at this point in time, but I think what we really need to do is start from top to bottom and talk about what all the numbers are, how it all comes into play, at least what the proposals are. Because we're in that 30-day process, correct, Bob, where other proposals could be made during the 30 days, and it won't be back on the council agenda until April 17th.
Correct.
But I still think, I mean, I was out and about this weekend, and there's just a lot of comments that are made, and I'm thinking, I don't think that's quite right.
Dan, could I
Yes,
suggest
sir.
this? Maybe at next Monday's meeting, staff can do a presentation of, and I don't want to call it the Hotel Convention Center project. Let's call it what it is. It's the Tax Reinvestment District project that outlines how everything ties together, how everything is funded, and the impact of what not doing one piece of it means to the rest of the whole reinvestment district. I think now would be a good time to do a presentation to council, just outline, here's what it is, and here's how it works together.
And I think we can put that on the agenda and make it public, and having
Yes.
people like Tim or others.
And then we would put it on
come
the
forward
agenda
and saying,
as
"Hey,
an
I
item."
am in favor
Yes.
because of this, or I'm not in favor because of that. I think that would be helpful.
Right.
I think so too.
Good idea. So we can have that on a week from today,
Yes.
There you go, Tim. We won't keep you so late next
April
time.
3rd.
How about that?
Whatever time it takes, it's all worth it. It's an important step down the road. And as I said, again, it's an economic development project. It's not an EFAB project, but we're certainly
Right.
eager to see it continue.
But by the same token, I do think the taxpayers need to know exactly what we're proposing, what we're looking at, yeah, and have it all tie in together, and have a question and answer period with staff, with council, with the mayor, and try to get everybody, maybe not in agreement, but at least get us all on the same page, so at least we're talking the same facts.
Yeah,
So
that'd be
that we
great.
understand what those facts are.
For people to know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Any other citizen concerns?
Oh, no.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
My name is Corey Smith. I live on 3127 Grandview Boulevard, and I'm the owner of Albright Cycle downtown. So this concern is regarding issue number 7 on the agenda today. There's a few business owners here with me where this street closing that's going to be bumped up to 2 o'clock would really severely impact our business, specifically because the dates listed are on Fridays and Saturdays. So that's a pretty busy time, I know, for us at Albright's. I can't speak for these two gentlemen back there, but maybe they can shed some light to it too. But I'm sure they're pretty busy as well. So my concern is that, like I said, it would just be kind of inhibiting our business, and it seemed to work smoothly last year where they would set up at 5, but we were more than willing to work around it. I think 2 o'clock is just a little bit too early for a Friday or a Saturday, at least for us. So that's my only concern, I have to state.
Okay.
I appreciate hearing that, and I think too, looking at the map of
Yeah.
where it's going to be closed, what's the impact you're worried? Because
It
we're
will-
to your business. I mean, you can park on the street there. Are you worried about the parking lots that's to the west, or what's your greatest concern?
Yes, in my case, it's actually not as big of a deal
Yeah.
as it is for Tim of Automobile Electric and also Hydraulic Sales and Service. They're completely closed off, so they're in a different situation.
Cool.
But for me, it's a lot of the cycling traffic that comes through. And generally, when there's a lot of activity there, people kind of tend to stay clear because they're doing sound checks and other things at that time. And it is, if you've ever been in there, it's virtually impossible to hold a conversation when that's happening.
Outside or in your business?
Both outside and in our business.
I would want to go listen to the free show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm completely for that. It's just a little, it is difficult, and our customers have stated concerns, especially when it's in the Friday evenings and Saturdays, which are really like the meat of our business hours right there.
And there are other concerns, same item?
I was going to say, because I'm hearing from you that you're not as concerned with your business, but there are other people that are concerned.
Yes.
Angel, did you want to speak?
You gentlemen want to come up as well?
So when I submitted the application for Hard Rock Casino for the street closure, I did not receive, or I have not received any negative comments from business owners in the past. So this is the first that I've heard that businesses had issues with the street closure, which is something that has occurred. I think they've requested this, probably this is their third year in doing so. Ashley French with the Hard Rock Casino is here currently, and she is more than willing, and they've always been gracious enough to accommodate the businesses in that area. So I'm sure she can address and talk with the business owners that are here currently to make some accommodations and changes, because we can certainly do that, and I can come back forward to the city council with those changes.
How late do you stay open, and the others? 5?
Yeah, for 5.
Yeah,
Can you come up to
5:30 or
Can you
later.
come up to the podium and state your, can you come up to the podium and state your name and address, please, so we'll have it for the record?
Yes, my name is Rod Riesdorf. I live at 3201 22nd. Me and my wife and I are owners of Hydraulic Sales and Service, 408 Water Street. It's the old building right across from the Battery Park. Yep. And yeah, we are, we're open till 5 o'clock on Friday. Friday is a big day for us. So, and with them setting it up at 5, that wasn't a problem. We put up with the noise, and I really don't care about that. Sometimes it's kind of cool, but anyway, and Saturdays I'm not open, so I'm not even concerned about the Saturday deal. But, starting at 2 o'clock is a little early for us. A lot of people, when they drive up, they're going to see the mess, and they'll go across my competitor across the river. Siouxland Hydraulics, and I don't want that to happen. So, I have some concerns, but, if, I'm willing to work with Hard Rock, and I have no problem with Hard Rock. I gotta go over there, so, so, I mean, they're good people. They've been good neighbors for us, and we're trying to be the same way, so. Anyway, that's my concern. I could have some lost revenue. If they want to help me out, work with me, give me something, we'll go for it.
Well, can I have Ashley come up and express what they can accommodate you guys with?
Yeah, could you state your name and address too for us, please?
Yeah, Tim Engel, 404 Water Street, A1 Auto Service, and I've enjoyed having the Hard Rock Entertainment. Value has been great for the city and for all the citizens, but the only problem I have is the earlier than normal street closure this year. 5 o'clock seemed to work really good for all of us businesses down there in previous years, and now they want to move it earlier. And my business is a mobile business. We're coming in, coming out all day, and it's difficult for me to have an early closure and then try to keep the wolves away from the door, so to speak. But
Are you open up on Saturdays also, or?
What was that?
Are you open up on Saturdays also?
No. Saturday, I'm willing to work with their schedule, but it's just that Friday early closure is just really difficult.
Are these all Fridays, or are they?
What's that?
Are they both? How many Fridays are in here?
I think I believe there's 3.
Three
Fridays. 3 Fridays. But thank you, I appreciate it, Council.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Ashley French with the Hard Rock, representing Hard Rock 111 3rd Street, Sioux City, Iowa. Yes, there are 3 Friday street closures this year. The third one is the Friday of Labor Day weekend. Yes, we recognize the street closures are earlier, but we will always pledge to allow the business owners to get in and out of their businesses. That's never anything that we wish to stop. We'll have monitors there, and what we are looking at larger crowds than we had last year, substantially larger crowds than last year. So what we're looking at is the safety for our workers, the artists. There was the nightclub shooting, so we want to make sure that we can create a secure area as soon as the artists start coming out for their sound check earlier in the afternoons. Patrons, we have a lot of, I'm going to call them looky-loos. They drive by, they want to watch. So what we've noticed the past couple years is people start 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, they start walking down the street, in the middle of the street. Doesn't matter if the street's not closed yet or not, they're treating it as is because of the nature of the venue. And our biggest concern is safety. And we were successful in getting the cattle guard set up last year, but we're respectfully asking for the earlier street closure.
So, but you'll work with the 3 businesses?
Absolutely.
On
We've
those
never
3
closed
Fridays? I mean, is that,
We've never closed the sidewalks off. We put the cattle guard up in the street to keep the sidewalks open. We do close our side of the street off. We do put up the no parking signs on our side of the street along 4th and Water. We have never resorted to towing anybody out of those streets, but last year we did have to use the assistance of the Sioux City Police Department to track down cars that were still parked on meters that indicated no parking. So again, it's just trying to facilitate making these concerts happen.
would the 3 property business owners be willing to work with the Hard Rock on the first Friday, see how that goes? And if it goes well, we won't hear from you. If it doesn't go well, we'll hear from you and we'll deal with the other 2 Fridays?
That'll work.
Would that be agreeable?
I could go for that.
Okay.
And do we have to adjust then or vote?
No, because it's going to be a handshake agreement. First Friday, see how it goes. And if it doesn't go well, we'll hear from you.
Okay.
Is that agreeable?
Awesome.
Okay.
I do have a
Thank
question.
you.
What would the best channel be to go through if something isn't working out, if there was a concern?
Would be myself.
City manager?
Okay.
It'd be Angel Wallace.
Angel.
Okay, perfect.
Do you have Angel's number? Why don't you get her number, that kind of thing, so you'll have it. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And thank you for that. Any other citizen concerns?
No more?
No more. Council concerns? Mr. Gretkin?
I've got just 4 or 5 things real quick. No, I'll pass. I'll wait till next week.
You're good.
I only got 4 or 5, but I'm going to wait till next week.
Mr. Waters?
I will pass. I'll be good.
Okay. Mr. Manager, City Manager, City Attorney, Clerk? Nothing? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yep.
Just one more.
Zach, move it.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, you're kidding. I'll move that we adjourn
Pete
the
moves.
council meeting.
Rhonda seconded.
Sure.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you.
There.
Thank you, thank you.
That's
You're
fine.
supposed to call her name, Dan.
Heidi is like, we didn't call the roll.
Oh, we gotta call a roll.